the IT space within the Nifty. It's clearly Infosys 35 points, TCS 13 points, and of course overall the Nifty is now accelerating, ladies and gentlemen, across the board. A very, very strong show in the IT space. eClerx, HCL Tech, all of them are now pointing to increased spending coming in from the US geography. So actually, what are you watching?
Absolutely, it's IT which is taking it away, and I think it's already penciling in what we were discussing, a Donald Trump victory coming into fore as well. And Gaurang, you were the first one to talk about two sectors that could be benefiting if Donald Trump comes back to the stage, and one is IT and the other one is pharma.
So it's a reminder for us that it's not just about political opinions and the consequence of it. It's also as much reflective on the markets and for investors. So we'll be tracking the market as well for you. I want to now go across to Dr. Harinder Sekon, consultant of Vivekananda International Foundation. Dr. Harinder, appreciate your patience as well. We've been having a conversation in the past 48 hours with you. You tell me now, with the results that are coming in, what is possibly the reason, do you think, that Trump is showing the lead that he is, even though there was so much hype about Kamala Harris and the results are still on?
I think, as was expected and I had mentioned the other day also, is America really ready for a woman president?
Correct.
And spoken about Hillary Clinton. She won on the popular vote and Trump finally became president at that time. Now, these were some of the things, and as Sushant has already mentioned, we get carried away by some preferences which media people have, and the polls did predict a very close fight, and it has been a very close fight. I was in the US when the first debate happened. She was strong on some of the issues, but Trump has come across stronger on immigration, and also, people feel that for the American economy, he might be better because he's going to finish unnecessary foreign wars. So this is what seems to have gone in favor, and there's a strong anti-incumbency factor because Biden has been seen as somebody who was a weak president, and I think Kamala Harris, in all fairness, did not really get enough time to get her poll in place and her election campaigning in place. So that has been a major issue, and she has covered a lot of ground. But I think the swing states are going to be very, very crucial, and those are very surprising leads which are coming out. So, so I think I'll come in later. But when it comes to India, what everybody has been talking about, I think the American president is for America first. And this is what we have seen consistently, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. So it is America first, and there's a broad continuity in their policies, whether it's foreign policy, especially in foreign policy. I think it's the domestic policy. It is the Americans who need to be worried about what would happen internally within America if there's Trump. It would be more disruption for what he's been talking about, that he's going to fire Powell and the US Fed is going to be accountable to the executive. Now, these are the things, and he also might do what he did earlier. The Foreign Service may not be so independent as, as the professional Foreign Service people, the Department of State, because Trump believes more in people being loyal to him personally rather than the country or the administration.
Yes, I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating, Dr. Harinder. Whoever wins, it is history in as many ways. If it's the return of Donald Trump, what happens to the cases against him? How will he shape a relationship with India? Or if it is Kamala Harris, the expectation she also is riding with on her shoulders. Stay on with me, please. If Lenka White is still with us, Lenka, a question to you. I understand it's getting late into the night for you. Are people still gathering more and more, even though it appears that Kamala Harris is winning from where you are right now? What about Trump supporters?
Yes, definitely. I'm surrounded actually by Trump supporters. They are, everywhere around here. Some are actually sitting here. Some are standing outside. There is a bar here on my left side where there are about 500 people. I think now maybe it downsized to about 300 people, but they are still there. Everyone is very happy. They are cheering. So, of course, because it's their preferred candidate. And the results are really shockingly good. No one expected that. I think everyone is sort of expecting something would happen in 2020, some last moment changes. But, so far it all looks great. And even, for example, in Pennsylvania, as you said, it was supposed to be very tight, yet Trump is already leading the way. And as we know, there is one county in Pennsylvania where they sort of said they will close at 10 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. So they are sort of stretching it. We should wait for all the results, but so far
Correct.
It looks amazing.
At least in New York, it appears that Kamala Harris, at least here in New York and New Jersey, remember, these are the big states, big cities, cosmopolitan, diverse, and in many ways international cities as well. And therefore, perhaps Kamala Harris winning there says a lot. Lenka, thank you very much for now. I'll take that question to Sushant Sareen. Sushant, the Indian-American vote was also extremely polarized, divided, very opinionated, massive chunk with Kamala Harris, but as many loyalists for Donald Trump or the Republican group. What is your assessment? Why Donald Trump do you think is showing the leads that we are witnessing, not just in the red states, but even in the swing states?
So, Pooja, a couple of things, and I'll stick my neck out on this one. Look, one, we saw Donald Trump 1.0. He seemed to be very erratic, very disruptionist. I think we see a certain change in 2.0. He seems to have, become a lot more sober and, a lot more stable. And he used to call himself a stable genius even in the past, but I think he's become a lot more stable this time. Secondly, I think as far as the Indian American vote is concerned, it shows a degree of maturity and how well settled the Indian Americans are, that they don't suffer from the same insecurities that immigrant communities do when they start off. So I think there's a certain maturity which has come in the Indian American vote, and I think with prosperity, they are in a position to decide what works better for them, rather than this whole immigration stuff or something else. On the other hand, when you look at the appeal of Trump, I think both campaigns, they were not issues. They were fear factors that both campaigns were trying to sell. The Democrats were trying to sell that, what we had in India, that the Constitution is going to be in danger, that there is going to be the Ku Klux Klan is coming back, etc., etc., etc. So there was that entire fear factor that the Democrat side has raised. The Republican side had its own fear campaign. And clearly, I think the fear campaign of the Republican side seems to have struck more of a chord than the fear factor that the Democrats were trying to sell. Perhaps that's the only sense I can make of this election, because in terms of economy, in terms of foreign policy, there wasn't much different. Immigration, of course, but that was the fear factor, wasn't it?
Yes,
that's the
immigration,
fear factor,
and I think the border safety.
Yes, from the country.
Correct. And also, when he said that criminals and gangs are taking over us, I will close the borders. I think that's where for a white American possibly.
They're eating your dogs and cats.
Yes, all of the strong words Donald Trump known to actually mention were taken, and specifically to possibly the white Americans watching that if they need a certain protection and safety, Donald Trump will make all of that safe. Make America great again is what the slogan was. Meanwhile, remember, for Kamala Harris, about 60 years of age, immigrant background. On the other side, over 70 years of age for Donald Trump. Look at what the results are showing. This is very interesting. Remember, there are traditional roots, red and blue states, that are showing what even the candidates or their teams were expecting. But in the 7 states, for now, at least in 2, Wisconsin included, Donald Trump is showing a certain lead. What are the other updates that are coming in on the sidelines of the election results? Let's take a look at these updates that we have coming in from the United States of America. Very interesting. Take a look at this. Jill Biden, the first lady incumbent, cast her vote, wife of President Joe Biden. But this image is going viral for another reason. She's wearing a red pantsuit while on her way to cast the vote, and many are saying the color usually associated with the Republican Party has sent the social media into frenzy. Many are asking, jokingly of course, that did she vote for Donald Trump instead? Elon Musk, meanwhile, the biggest supporter right now, the owner of Tesla, social media site X, cast his vote in Cameron County. And throughout the presidential run, remember, he has been publicly endorsing former President Donald Trump for a rerun. attending rallies, even speaking on stage, especially the one that went viral was at the Madison Square Garden in New York. And he says, if America wants to save itself, only Donald Trump can do it. But Hollywood has gone out to support Kamala Harris, and in their creative ways, actor Anne Hathaway encouraging voters in colleges and universities, the younger voters, to get in line, cast votes, and she used her own rendition of Sabrina Carpenter's Please, Please, Please. Let's listen in.
Wait out your time. If you are on a line right now, please, please, please stay on the line. Please.
Meanwhile, also, Billie Eilish urging fans to vote for Kamala Harris, asserting that voting for her and Tim Walz is unbelievably important and to protect our freedom and future.
Important way to protect our election day is finally here. Voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is an unbelievably important way to protect our freedoms and our future. Nothing changes without.
Beyonce too continued to show her support for Kamala Harris on the election day. In fact, she jetted back to her hometown just to vote. Last week, also remember, Beyonce took to the stage in Houston to endorse Kamala Harris as US President. All right, so as the results continue to come in, all eyes will be on who gets to lead United States of America and what kind of relationship will they have with regard to India, other nations, and the geopolitical narratives. Will that change with regard to America? I want to thank all our guests, all our reporters on the ground, but it's our continuous coverage. I'm signing off for now. Stay tuned to India Today. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you very much for watching.
Did you choose to come to Tulasendrapuram all the way from US?
Well, I've been visiting India for 3 months, and when I realized that I could be in this village for the American election, it just felt right. It felt in my heart like I should be here. So it called me.
We're seeing the early trends, trickling in, and it gives a lead to Donald Trump. Is that a cause of concern for people like you who've supported Kamala Harris through her campaign?
Yes, of course it is. I still feel like there is a path to victory if the blue wall holds.
But what will it mean for the U.S. if Kamala Harris is elected as president? What would it mean for people like you?
Well, we have some concerning trends in the United States. Reproductive rights have been stripped from women, and a lot of conservative fundamentalists are taking over the country. So I think it means that we'll return to normalcy and women will be empowered again.
We saw the villagers offering prayers at this temple, and we saw you along with them. What is the sense that you're picking up from the ground, and what did you pray? We saw you praying at the temple as well.
Yes, I'm praying, of course. I prayed every day since Kamala has been...
All right, Shilpa, keep getting us these voices, and it's a reminder of how connected two different nations have been with these elections. I want to now go back to our news director, Rahul Kanwal, for the latest on that. Rahul, what are the trends that you're also tracking? What do you think is happening? It looks like Trump is definitely leading in more and more states now. Rahul, if you can hear me. With the trends that are coming in, it looks like that it's more and more turning into red than blue. What do you make of it?
Take you through all the latest data coming in from the United States, where counting is currently on. Of the electoral votes, 242 have gone to the Republicans. Donald Trump and the Republicans currently leading on 242 electoral votes, 108 for Kamala Harris, 188 to be decided, still being counted. If you look at the projections that are coming at this moment from what
the latest updates suggest Donald Trump has an 89% chance of becoming president again. And the reason for this is that Donald Trump seems to be very likely at this moment to take Georgia and North Carolina. Kamala Harris needed to sweep Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, but at this moment, in these crucial battleground states, it doesn't seem she has the advantage. The current prediction is that Donald Trump could end up at about 301 electoral college votes versus 237 for Kamala Harris. If you look at what happened in the last elections 4 years ago, Joe Biden ended up with 303 electoral college votes. You need 270 to win. Donald Trump at that time had 235. From the votes that have been counted so far, 226 votes have gone in the same direction as they did 4 years ago. 108 have gone in favor of Kamala Harris. 16 seem to have flipped. Now remember, every electoral college vote flipping is what seems to be making the difference. 188 total votes still to be counted, still to be decided. Out of these, 100 votes seeming safe. Remember, big states like California with 54 electoral college votes, those are very likely to go towards the Democrats from the way voting from the way counting is currently going on. So 100 safe electoral college votes for the Democrats, 5 for the Republicans, 18 likely for the Democrats, 4 for the Republicans, 50 are the toss-ups electoral college votes, which at this baseline, at this moment, suggests that Kamala Harris sits on 226, Donald Trump sits at 262. You need to cross 270 to win. He's already at 262, which suggests his path to victory is now looking more likely. If I'll see where these numbers are coming from, a state like Pennsylvania, 19 electoral college votes here, this is where Kamala Harris was hoping to do well. This is where a lot of the energy and effort made by the Democrats has been concentrated. Of the votes that have been counted in Pennsylvania, currently Donald Trump has 50.8% of the votes. Kamala Harris has 48.3% of the votes. This gap is increasing. Earlier, remember, Kamala Harris was leading in Pennsylvania. That's now seeming to slip out of her hands. And the moment Pennsylvania slips out of the Democrats' hands, you know that Donald Trump's path to the White House becomes easier. 67% of the votes in the state of Pennsylvania have already been counted, and Donald Trump's lead seems to be getting bigger. Remember, this is where the Democrats were hoping that the anger amongst the Puerto Ricans would make a big difference. So despite all the negatives that have hampered the Donald Trump campaign, he still leads on 50.8% of the votes. If I look at some of the other battleground states, I'll take Michigan. In Michigan, Kamala Harris has a comfortable 51.5% votes versus 46.8% for Donald Trump. So a comfortable gap here for the Democrat candidate. If I come now to Wisconsin, another key battleground state, here too, in Wisconsin, with 60% of the votes already counted, Donald Trump has a 50.2% vote share versus 48.3% for Kamala Harris. So the moment these crucial battleground states, the blue wall states, start slipping away from the Democrats, which is why at this moment it seems quite likely that Donald Trump could end up crossing the 300-figure mark. He needs 270 to win. Despite the limitations of his campaign, at this moment it seems more likely that Donald Trump is going to be president of the United States once again, becoming only the second man in American history to have a gap term in the middle, to win once, lose once, and then come back potentially to win the US presidential race once more. Pooja.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Rahul, for getting us all this data perspective and help us understand, because Donald Trump, remember, amid all the controversies and the cases against him, how will he return? What will be his policies like? Thank you very much. Rahul, I'll come back to you in just a short while on that. I want to now go to our guests as well. Sushant Sareen, tracking all the latest and I'm sure has a lot of hot takes to give. Sushant, what do you make of this? It was considered so close to call, so neck and neck. Is it really, with the trends that are coming in, or do you think it's going to be Donald Trump coming back to lead the USA? Sushant, I think your microphone is on mute. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, So if Indian elections have taught us something, it is that don't trust political punditry. Pollsters and pundits simply cannot read the field anymore. I think that's the only conclusion one can draw when it comes to sample size of the two largest democracies in the world. We all, all pundits get it wrong, right? All pollsters are getting it wrong. And maybe there are certain biases which are being reflected in their analysis. So one is that. My own sense is that if Donald Trump wins, I think he'll win comfortably. If Kamala Harris wins, she'll win comfortably. We probably, you still have the West Coast to go. I don't think the map you've been showing shows, the big states like California with 50 electoral votes coming in. So there is that one factor. Her numbers are going to go up. And then, of course, as Rahul was talking about the battleground states, we'll wait and see how that works out. As far as India is concerned, look, it's going to be a bit of a toss-up. You have a certain strategic continuity, yes, with the Democrats, but you also have Democrats who are extremely interventionist, interfering in your own affairs, always hectoring, always, trying to take this moral positions on things when their own positions back home simply do not stand up to scrutiny. So one is that factor. With the Republicans, you will not have the kind of interventions that the Democrats do, but there will be a lot more under Trump. There'll be a lot more disruptionist. I don't have a problem with anybody being transactional because I believe all international relations are transactional in one form or another. Now you can give it whatever label you want to give it. You can package it in strategic terms. You can package it in ideological terms. You do what you want to do. At the end of the day, all international relations are transactional. So, and I don't have a problem with transactional. I think that's a good way to go because then it's basically that you're friends with benefits. And when the benefits stop, you choose other friends. That's as simple as that. And I don't see a problem with that. So on that count, I don't have much of, it's a bit of a toss-up. Do you want an interventionist America or a disruptionist America? But other than that, I think it's okay. And just the last point,
Sure.
There is this lot of excitement in India of an Indian origin person might become the president. We still don't know. But look, I have no expectations from anybody of Indian origin, whether in Western academia, and I don't even take them seriously because most of the time they're trying to fit in, they're trying to mouth, what their masters are asking them to mouth. So I don't take them seriously. And I have not seen any of the American, with some notable, honorable exceptions, most American Indians who are in government or are in positions of authority haven't really batted for India in the same way as...
And I understand your concern there, Sushant, because are we putting too much expectation on someone who doesn't want to take that responsibility or burden on the shoulders right now? Sushant, stay on with me because I do have another question for you, but it's what the elections have as consequence and repercussions on the stock market as well. That's what's reflective of the political fluctuations happening right now. We have some updates on that. Let's take a look about how the markets presently are. And this is important. Look at that.
Consumer-friendly, pocket-friendly garments to offer, especially with the kind of offering. I happened to step into one of the Trent outlets and I was quite amazingly pleased with the change that I saw, Sakshi. So, and more importantly, what I have seen is that from online to offline, that's what is happening. And possibly you will have more positivity in terms of footfalls, etc.
Guys, we need to focus back on the IT index. This is now a clear indication that at least what the Indian markets are thinking of US electoral results. Now 700 points higher on the IT index, 41,110. Will this be a day when the IT index will hit a 4-digit mark in terms of gains? Only time will tell, but all signs are there. Ladies and gentlemen, look at what TCS is doing. A very strong show. Now it has reclaimed the 4,000 rupee mark as far as prices are concerned. TCS at the moment is quoting 48 rupees higher. Infosys is contributing 35 points, up 2 percentage points. And if you look at the contributions that are coming from the IT space within the Nifty, it's clearly Infosys 35 points, TCS 13 points, and of course overall the Nifty is now accelerating, ladies and gentlemen, across the board. a very, very strong show in the IT space. E-clerks, HCL Tech, all of them are now pointing to increased spending coming in from the US geography. Sakshi, what are you watching?
Absolutely, it's IT which is taking it away, and I think it's already penciling in what we were discussing, Donald Trump victory coming into fore as well. And Gaurang, you were the first one to talk about two sectors that could be benefiting if Donald Trump comes back to the stage, and one is IT and the other one is pharma.
So it's a reminder for us that it's not just about political opinions and the consequence of it. It's also as much reflective on the markets and for investors. So we'll be tracking the market as well for you. I want to now go across to Dr. Harinder Sekon, consultant of Vivekanand International Foundation. Dr. Harinder, appreciate your patience as well. We've been having a conversation in the past 48 hours with you. You tell me now, with the results that are coming...
Absolutely, Sneha. So the markets are in the green. A recovery had started just yesterday with the 1,000-point recovery on the Sensex from the lows, and it has further escalated today. There are two key sectors that are driving the show, IT and pharma, and these are both export-oriented sectors. And we know that the markets are already looking at an indication that Trump is leading in most of the key swing states right there. And a victory of Trump would indicate that the US economy would be more focused on reduced corporate taxes, pro-business approach, and also reduced regulation. Once that happens, a lot of business and money will start moving in, and once that happens, all the export-oriented sectors in India will benefit the most, especially the IT sector. That's the leading sector in the trade today. 2.5% uptick on the Nifty IT. Infosys, TCS, HCL Tech are the top movers on the Nifty. Beyond this, across the mid-cap IT space, we are seeing gains of even up to 8 to 10% in trade right here. You're actually seeing more business approach, and therefore the IT sector is reflecting clearly a Trump victory that could benefit in the Indian sector. So beyond this, we are also looking at the chemical space, the oil and gas space as well. All of those approaches that Trump is going to be taking that would also impact these key sectors as well. Remember, Trump is also going to be impacting the tariffs in China. So all those sectors which could benefit as China plus one strategies in India are also up and shining bright in trade today, including the chemicals, the textile sector, as well as the oil and gas sector as well. But the leading ones are clearly the IT and the pharma, which have clear benefit. Once in US, we see money flow coming in, businesses start to loosen at their purses, clients start to spend in projects as well. So IT and pharma will be the clear winners right there, Sneha.
You know, what's most exciting right here and is very, very interesting is that the internet also, Sakshi is calling it the Trump factor, with the Bitcoin jumping to an all-time high. It's rising to an all-time high. Just put this into perspective, given that Trump is seen as somebody who's largely more pro-Bitcoin than Kamala Harris. This, of course, is the reason why Bitcoin is doing so well. He's also, in fact, pledged to make US a crypto capital, isn't it?
Absolutely, Sneha, and not just that. If you look at all the sectors are actually doing well, all the asset classes are doing well, markets are back in action. You also see the bonds that are doing well, along with Bitcoin as well. This is all about how the money flow will start. Something that was earlier anticipated that US economy is going to be looking at a soft landing, recessionary fears were coming in. But now when the business cycle starts, that's when the economy starts to pump money, and that's when most of the asset classes will also get the benefit of it. And therefore, you also see Bitcoin, which has also been on an upward trajectory at an all-time high levels right now.
You know, there has been a lot of support for Bitcoin, and that's the reason why after the leads, in fact, show that Trump seems to be leading in many of the key swing states, which is extremely important. Bitcoin there is doing pretty well. Sakshi, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment. Thanking you for joining in with those details. Sakshi was telling us about Dalal Street in the green, as there is all indication. There are enough indications. Trump is doing very well in at least the swing states, which of course are the defining states in the US. More news coming in. Trump is leading in most key swing states. That's the big story that we're breaking at this hour. Trump is leading in Arizona and Georgia and in Pennsylvania. The early lead indicates Trump ahead with 230 electoral votes. Kamala lags behind with 192 votes, which is disappointing news for the Democrats, for the camp. But Trump is leading in many of the key swing states, and that becomes extremely important given that these are the states which essentially change the direction in which the winds are blowing. And it clearly shows that Trump is doing very well in these states. Swing states are voting in favor of Trump. Key swing states in the US to advantage Trump, and that's good news for the Republicans. Trump and Harris are leading in 5 and 1 swing states respectively. That's the latest update that we have for us. Geeta Mohan, my colleague, our Foreign Affairs Editor, is in the US tracking that big story. Geeta, all this while, and as always, we've been talking about the key swing states. And this time around, the latest leads indicate that Trump is leading, I believe, in at least 6 swing states. And that becomes extremely significant, isn't it?
Well, yes, and the one state that really matters is Pennsylvania. And for now, he's leading in Pennsylvania. Look at all the people over here. They're all watching the screen. The screens have CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, all three. So they're monitoring and tracking numbers as the numbers come in. Sir, is it okay if I come to you just for a quick conversation?
I'm sorry?
Is it okay if I speak to you for just a quick conversation? How excited are you about a Trump win? Do you think he's going to win?
I hope he wins, and it's going to be 2 different countries, 2 different directions.
Okay.
You have to have president.
Why?
Yes.
Why?
Why?
Yes.
Well, you know this as well as I do. Our borders are wide open. The world does not look at the United States like we're able to take care of ourselves. Our education system is shot. We're paying more money for everything than we were 4 years ago. And the Democrats, if Ms. Harris wins, they're going to do things to Americans, they're taking our freedom away that we've never had that.
Okay. So very strong sentiments over here from Republican supporters. He's wearing the MAGA hat, and we have many of them wearing the Trump badge. A lovely Trump badge over here, which reads Trump in bold. How excited are you about the elections and the results that are coming in?
Excited. I'm very sick. I think this is going to be a landslide win. I'm very excited.
You think it's going to be a landslide win?
I think the numbers. I think it's going to be big.
And you think he's going to take the swing states? He's winning the swing states?
Yeah, I think he's going to win this.
Okay, what's your name?
Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. So lots and lots of supporters here. They're all watching. In a couple of hours, Sneha, we'll know which way America has voted.
Just explain this for us, you know. Okay.
Trump gets North Carolina, and it's absolutely a celebratory mood over here at the Palm Beach County Convention Center, which is where the watch party is happening. And look at all of them celebrating. So in a couple of hours, we'll know. Okay, they're still celebrating North Carolina, Sneha. But Trump is ahead in most of the swing states, like you rightly pointed out. And that's certainly going to be something. Pennsylvania, yeah, see, he's ahead in Pennsylvania. It's gone up. It's 51.3% and 47.7% for Harris as of now. And CNN is projecting a Trump win in battleground North Carolina. So huge development for Trump and ahead in Pennsylvania as well. So in a couple of hours, we'll really know which way America has voted. The charts of USA have begun over here. This is going to be absolutely ecstatic mood in some time from now. And if you see the flags over there is where Trump is going to come in a couple of hours. If the numbers look good and if there's clarity in a Trump win, we'll see him here delivering a speech to the people, to Republicans over here. So clearly a very important day for Trump, for the Republicans. This probably is Trump's last chance to presidency. And if he returns to power, he again will be making history, because it will be for the first time in over a century that there is going to be non-consecutive winner in Trump, a non-consecutive term for a U.S. president. So that in itself is going to be history. They're rooting for Trump over here. They're all Republicans, and every moment, every chance they get, they either are hailing Trump. There's a lot of cheer, or when the channels call out a state for Harris, then you will hear a lot of booing as well.
You know, Geeta, as we speak, Geeta, we are putting out these graphics for our viewers, just giving an idea about why these swing states are important and why the results are so crucial. Geeta, just put this into perspective as we stay with those graphics for our viewers. Often, it's taken at least up to 4 days for swing states to declare the elections and who the winner really is. And that's the reason why swing states matter. The final outcome of these elections actually may take even several days or so, isn't it? It's happened in the past.
Well, that's right. Now, swing states matter not because they take a lot of time or their contestations. They matter because those numbers add up to a win. And these are the states that are not committed to a particular party. Whereas there are other states that are committed to a particular party. They're either red or blue. Some have over time turned red. They were initially blue. Florida, where I stand today, is one such state. It was a Democratic state, and it slowly turned red. And today, it has become a Trump bastion. So it is red. It is a huge number. It has 30 electoral votes and is a red state today. So
just be with us. With Trump leading in Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and a win in North Carolina. Geeta just got that news for us a few seconds ago, and just to reiterate that for our viewers, that right now Trump essentially is ahead with 230, and he has won the swing state of North Carolina. That is, of course, the biggest headline at this hour. Geeta, you were telling about this earlier as well as the results were declared for North Carolina. I'm going to go straight across to India Today's Rahul Kaval also. Rahul, a big and a very crucial development, a big boost in Trump's campaign, as it's clear that North Carolina clearly is in his kitty, isn't it?
Okay, so let's take you through where the United States presidential race stands at this moment. The New York Times predicting that Donald Trump has an 89% chance of victory. If we look at all the votes that have been counted so far and project into the future, 298 electoral college votes is where Donald Trump could end up versus 240 for Kamala Harris. If I look at the big picture to give you a sense of where things stand at this moment, 246 electoral college votes at this time for Donald Trump, 204 for the Democrat candidate Kamala Harris, 88 electoral college votes currently up for grabs. If you look at some of the crucial states where polling numbers have started coming in North Carolina, for example, Donald Trump has 50.8% of the votes versus Kamala Harris at 48. This state already called by Associated Press in favor of Republican candidate Donald Trump. So these are the crucial battleground states. In Georgia as well, if we come across now to Pennsylvania, which was the most important battleground state, Donald Trump has actually been able to increase his lead. Earlier, the lead was just down to a few percentage points. From there, he's actually been able to consolidate his lead. 51.4% of the votes in Pennsylvania for Donald Trump versus 47.7% for Kamala Harris. If we switch over to Michigan, in Michigan, Kamala Harris at 64% of the votes versus 34.6% for Donald Trump. So this is one battleground state where Kamala Harris is in the lead. Apart from this, if we come to Wisconsin, here again, 51.1% of the votes for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris is 47.4% of the votes. The Republicans clearly having a great day at the hustings. So where is this coming from? I want to show you a quick sense of the big numbers, because if you look at the big numbers to get a sense of where this race stands, 303 is what Joe Biden had in the 2020 elections versus 235 for Donald Trump. At this moment, 16 electoral college votes have flipped, taken from the blue category, brought to the red category. 88 are up for grabs in the balance at this moment, out of which 4 safe for Kamala Harris, 1 safe for Donald Trump, 18 likely for Kamala Harris, 4 likely for Donald Trump, 11 leaning towards Donald Trump, which essentially suggests that at this moment, with 270 being the asking figure, you've got Donald Trump at 262, Kamala Harris only at 226. This is a campaign where the Democrats seem to be running out of steam, and Donald Trump coming back to power potentially once again. It was last time in 1885 and then in 1893 that you had an American president who won with a gap in the middle. That was, of course, Grover Cleveland, who was the 22nd and 24th president of the United States. Not since 1897 have you had a situation where a man won an election, lost an election, and then came back. At this moment, the prediction is that there's an 89% chance of Donald Trump winning in the votes that have been counted so far.
You know, Rahul, it's very interesting because what it really shows is that this wasn't that neck and neck as we believed it to be, isn't it?
So yes and no. See, when you go out and poll in some of these states, let me take you through some of the states that we looked at. See, Michigan, this is one of the battleground states, 51% versus 48. That's a 3% gap between the winner and the runner-up. That's a very, very tight election. If you look, for example, at Pennsylvania, 41.4 versus 48, again, just about a 3+%. So this is a very, very tight election. So when the polls were suggesting that this is a tight election, to that extent, the polls were correct. But the moment you come down to the gap between the winner and the runner-up being, say, 2 or 3%, it's very difficult for a pollster to be able to predict which side will it go on counting night because of just how close that race really is, Neha.
All right, Rahul, be with us. In fact, I'm being told that there are certain pictures right now coming in. Let's go straight across to those pictures. I believe of Elon Musk, greatly seen as the biggest supporter of Donald Trump, has been rallying with him. Musk at Trump's Mar-a-Lago mansion party right now. Pictures of Elon Musk right now at the mansion of Donald Trump, where they are, in fact, he, at least, is being seen in these pictures on enjoying on what's supposed to be perhaps a dinner party that has been thrown by Donald Trump there. I'll, in fact, bring in Geeta Mohan for more on that. Geeta, the pictures are of the man who has been rallying from Donald Trump and perhaps seen as his most vociferous supporter, Elon Musk, there at a mansion, Donald Trump's mansion, and enjoying dinner right there. It clearly appears that this is early celebration for the Republicans and for those belonging to the Trump camp, isn't it here?
That's right, Sneha. It was around afternoon that Elon Musk landed in Florida, here at the West Palm Beach, and he's been in Mar-a-Lago ever since then. So he started watching the election results trickle in with Trump, and he also did a Twitter space sitting in Mar-a-Lago, where he was talking about certain concerns regarding more women voters having come out to vote this time. Will that reflect in a Harris win in the swing states or something? We'll have to wait and see. But he did a long Twitter space from there, and he has been in Mar-a-Lago for a while. So he will come here with Donald Trump should there be clarity in the results that are coming out right now. If there is a clear picture in a couple of hours from now, then you will see Trump accompanied by all those important people, his coterie, as also those who've supported him, such as Elon Musk, on that stage in some time from now.
Yes, but as far as celebrity support is concerned, Geeta, these were very interesting elections where there was very public support of, both the contenders on both sides, essentially, where we saw many celebrities endorse Kamala Harris as well, isn't it?
Well, that's right. Celebrity endorsements are a thing when it comes to U.S. elections. It's happened over the years. A lot of big celebrities have endorsed. In fact, Taylor Swift's endorsement was something that was long awaited, awaited with bated breath. And finally, when it came through, it was a huge development for Kamala Harris. But have celebrity endorsements really turned or swayed voters? We do not really have real numbers to prove that, yes, they have actually swayed voters and converted a near loss to a win. That certainly has not happened. we have seen, despite celebrity endorsements for Hillary Clinton, Trump winning. We've seen a lot of celebrity endorsements this time around for Kamala Harris as well, and Trump is leading. We do not know whether that's going to convert into a win or not, but we do see that the celebrity endorsements have become a thing in US elections. They do wait, they engage, they woo celebrities to ensure that they endorse one candidate or the other.
All right, Geeta, be with us. I'm just going to come back to you for more on that. Geeta is in Florida right now reporting on that big story that we are tracking to give just more perspective to our viewers and the latest information, latest leads at this point in time. Take a look at what is being now said as far as Pennsylvania is concerned. That's where Donald Trump is having a lead of about 51.4% as opposed to Kamala Harris's 47.6%. That's the latest figure from Pennsylvania. The other swing state of Michigan, where Trump again is leading by 51.7% and Kamala Harris at 46.6%. So a bit of a setback there, at least in two states. Let's take a look at the third one, which is, of course, the state of Wisconsin, again, where Donald Trump is leading with 51.0% and 47.6% for the Democrats. So Kamala Harris there is not leading again in that state. The fourth one is North Carolina, where Trump is at 50.8% and Harris is at 48.0%. In Arizona, again, it's good news for the Reds with Trump leading at 49.8% and Kamala Harris is at 49.4%. So there's a bit of a narrow margin there, but that's another state to watch out for. That is Arizona, one of the key swing states of Georgia also, where Trump is at 50.8%. Kamala Harris is at 48.5%. Geeta continues to be with us. Geeta, we were talking about these key swing states. The reason is why, because they've never been committed, or rather the commitment changes over a period of time. And that's the reason why they could be deciding on who finally, wins the race to the White House. Isn't it? Just put into perspective on how these states have voted in the past, which has been a deciding factor in the election outcome. All right, Geeta, I'm going to ask you that question again. If you can hear me, apologize for that line with Geeta. But Geeta, my question to you was particularly about the swing states. And I just wanted you to put this into perspective for our viewers on how the swing states in the past have decided the outcome of the elections.
Well, that's right. Swing states do decide the outcome of the elections. And it's not rare. It is very, very important, and it is a common feature when you see swing states really affect the result of US elections. You have the Republican states, you have the Democrat states, you have Reds, you have Blues that are almost traditionally that vote for a particular party. You also have those states who are traditionally or earlier blue Democratic states and now have turned red, which is Florida as we speak. I've been standing here, and it was initially a Democratic state, slowly turned red, and today it is a Republican stronghold, a Republican state. But the swing states are the ones that flip. They could vote Democrat or Republican, and every time they do that, the electoral votes matter. And those electoral votes add up to the win. So you have a number that's stacked up at the very beginning of the election, and then you have numbers stacked up for the Democratic Party also at the very beginning, and then you start adding the swing state numbers to either side to show which party is ahead, and that's why in every election swing states do matter.
All right, in every election, swing states do matter. What is clear right now is that Trump has the lead in most of the swing states. Also, Right. We'll just, in fact, go back to Geeta in a moment from now. But these are the details that we have with us as far as the voting is concerned. The voting patterns indicating that there is good news in the red camp, with Trump at least leading in the key swing states, which, like we've been talking about, are the deciding factors these elections. He's spoken about a range of issues that ultimately determine what could be the reason behind the candidate's victory, who will be winning the race to the White House. And one of that is, of course, that of the swing states. Discussing that and much more also up ahead on the show, getting in more perspectives from ground zero and with our experts right ahead on the show, and how this campaign, this very hotly contested elections has been so far. America is our top focus story right here. We're pausing into a quick commercial break.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
नया फोन?
बिल्कुल मेरे जैसा।
तेरा ही फोन है। टीम बस में भूल आया था तू। क्रिकेट के बाद का प्लान ऐसे मत भूल जाना भाई।
क्रिकेट के बाद का प्लान मतलब पाजी?
मतलब रिटायरमेंट का प्लान।
इस जनरेशन ने तो उस बारे में सोचा भी नहीं होगा।
नहीं भाई पहले मैच से ही सोचा है, इसलिए तो वो कर रखा है।
वो मतलब क्या?
वही जो सब लोग सही है करते रहते हैं।
म्यूचुअल फंड्स में SIP।
म्यूचुअल फंड्स में SIP। अगर ऐसे भूल भी जाओ ना तो भी रिटायरमेंट का प्लान बैकग्राउंड में चलते रहना चाहिए, ताकि आगे की लाइफ सेट रहे।
सही है।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
जमाने से हटकर बेबाक है मेरा सिग्नेचर फाइनेस्ट कार्डमम सीड्स, अ प्रीमियम प्रोडक्ट फ्रॉम दिलबाग ग्रुप।
कैसे तेरी खुद गर्जी, ना धूप चुने ना छाँव, कैसे तेरी खुद गर्जी, किसी ठोर टिके ना पाँव, कैसे तेरी खुद गर्जी, ना धूप चुने ना छाँव, कैसे तेरी खुद गर्जी।
मिलिए रेखा भारद्वाज। साहित्य आज तक दिल्ली में लाइव 22, 23 और 24 नवंबर मेजर ध्यानचंद नेशनल स्टेडियम, इंडिया गेट, नई दिल्ली। आज ही अपनी टिकट बुक करें aajtak.in/साहित्य पर।
हो जा रंगीला रे with Motorola's incredible range of smartphones.
Hello, Moto.
All right, coming to you from the White House, we are giving you all the details, getting you the perspective, the ground reports on America's battle of the ages. Donald Trump is ahead in 230 electoral votes and Kamala Harris in 192. Trump has won swing state North Carolina and has taken lead in most of the swing states. And for the very latest on that big story, and also to get an idea about the swing states which eventually decide on who wins the race of the White House, is my colleague Rahul Kaval joining us this morning. Rahul, first of all, an insight into how are the swing states at this point in time doing, and also put this into perspective on why they are the states that essentially decide on who wins the race of the White House.
Well, it's turning out to be a bruising night for the Democrats in the United States. Donald Trump at this moment seems to be coasting to power. I want to show you some fascinating insights which capture the counting that's happened so far in the US. At a broad level, you've got 247 electoral college votes for Donald Trump versus 204 for Kamala Harris. 87 votes in the electoral college still up for grabs. Let's just take you through some of the crucial battleground states. Remember, there are 7 swing states which will determine ultimately who ends up winning. I'll start with Arizona, where Donald Trump, with the narrowest of margins, 49.8 for the Republican candidate versus 49.4 for Kamala Harris. Just a 0.5% gap between Trump and Harris in Arizona. From here, if we come to Georgia, which has already been called by Associated Press in favor of Donald Trump, 95% of the votes already counted, 50.8% of the votes for the Republican candidate versus 48.5 for Kamala Harris. Again, a very tight race here, 49 versus 51, but again a race with the narrowest of margins won by Donald Trump, who seems to be having a great day in most of the battleground states. I'll come, for example, to North Carolina, which again, just a short while before now, called by Associated Press in favor of Donald Trump. 50.8% of the votes for Donald Trump, 48% for Kamala Harris. Just a 3% gap between the Democrat and the Republican candidate. Narrow as it might be, once again the dice rolling in favor of Donald Trump. From there, let's now come to Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, again, you had Donald Trump in the lead. This is Michigan. Michigan is a state where Donald Trump has 50.1% of the votes versus Kamala Harris, who has 48% of the vote. Again, a very, very tight race, just 2% there. But again, advantage with 49% of the votes counted for Donald Trump. I want to show you 2 insights which give you a sense of what's really at play over here. Now, just spend a moment as I try and explain what you're seeing. These red arrows that you see and the concentration of red arrows suggest where votes in the United States have swung in favor of Donald Trump. Red is Republican, red is Trump. The blue arrows, and you see some of them, blue arrows are suggesting where the votes have gone in favor of Kamala Harris and the Democrats. Now you see the concentration of red arrows across the map of the United States in favor of Donald Trump. Now that's a big swing of votes. So it's not just the macro level data which has changed. If you look county by county, state by state, there is a big transfer of votes relative to the last elections in favor of Donald Trump. I want to show you this next data which gives you a sense of how these counties have voted. Now, even if you look at the big rural counties, you look at the metros, there's a big transfer of votes across different kinds of counties in favor of Donald Trump. And that really shows why at this moment Donald Trump has a very good chance, 89% chance when we last looked of Donald Trump coming back to power. It'll in the next few hours it'll become definite, but at this moment it seems not since 1897 when George Cleaver came back to power after a gap term, has any US president come back to power after losing an election. In America, it seems, still not ready for a woman president, and that really is hugely ironical because of the limitations of his campaign. Despite that, at the macro level, if you look at all the votes that have been counted so far, Donald Trump has 51% of the votes that have been counted so far. Kamala Harris is 47.6% of the national votes that have been counted so far. 43 of the 56 races have been called, 16 races still to be called. At this moment, it seems Donald Trump is coming back to power, quite 90% probability of that happening. There are some routes to power which have Kamala Harris still coming in front. Next time you come back to me, I'll try and show that to you. But those that path becoming narrower with every passing minute.
Clearly, counties are shifting in the 2024 presidential election is what Rahul is telling us right now. I'm going to leave it at that. Rahul Kanwal joining in with his perspective on that big story. Trump has won swing state North Carolina and has taken lead in most swing states. Republican Donald Trump has won Texas, Ohio, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, among others in the presidential elections. While Democrat Kamala Harris has captured New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Delaware, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Maryland, among others. The 7 swing or battleground states of Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, also Wisconsin are expected to effectively decide who will be the 47th president of the United States of America. It's the magic number of electoral votes needed to win the presidential election, and that stands at 270.
Our Republicans, we're doing really well. If you're in line, stay in line. Don't let them take you off that line. Vote. Stay in the line. They can't do anything about it. And vote. We're going to win it big. Thank you. Republicans, we're doing really well. Stay on line. Don't get off line and vote. Make sure you get through and vote. We're going to have a big victory tonight. Well, it'll be just that. We want to bring everybody in. We want to be very inclusive, and we will be very inclusive. We have a great country, but we have a country that's in trouble. It's in big trouble in many ways, and we have to straighten it out. We have crime is through the roof. We have people pouring through our borders that are not exactly perfect. They come out of prisons. 13,000 people convicted of murder. We don't need this in our country. We have enough difficulty. We don't need that. So I think people saw that. And it just seems that the conservatives are voting very powerfully. It should never happen. A thing like that should never happen. This election should be over. They spend all this money on machines. And frankly, if they'd use paper ballots, it would be over by 10 o'clock. And by the way, the paper ballots would cost 8%. It would be 8% of the cost. If they would use paper ballots, voter ID, proof of citizenship, and one-day voting, it would all be over by 10 o'clock in the evening. It's crazy. They use these very expensive computers, and I'm hearing in Pennsylvania they won't have an answer till 2 or 3 days from now. I think it's an absolute outrage if that's the case. Now, maybe it'll be later, but it's paper ballots. In France, they went paper ballots because the mail-in was not working. It was corrupt. And in France, they went paper ballots. And at 10 o'clock in the evening, they had 37 million votes counted and done. They had a winner, they had a loser. And in this country, I mean, I'm just hearing that in certain states, it's going to be a long time, and it won't even be close. It won't even be that close. They say, I'm going to win the state, but it's going to take a long time to certify it.
I'm hopeful that Trump wins because I know that he provides results. You know, he doesn't just talk about this and that. He provides results, and that's why, you know, I'm supporting him.
The popular vote has to be Donald Trump because more people have common sense than not, and I feel that Trump is, dominated.
Well, I agree. I think I feel good about it. Just watching the polls and talking to people and looking at the signs and the rallies. I mean, it's hard to say that he's not going to win this thing. So, but anything can happen. I think the world is. It's important for not only the United States but the world.
I think that Kamala Harris will be winning today. I have no doubt in my mind that Kamala Harris is about to be the next president of the United States, the first woman president. A woman is very much needed to run this country. And let me be very clear, okay? Donald Trump wanted us to go back to a place that we used to be. But as Kamala Harris says, we're not going back.
Having a black woman almost becoming the president of the United States is so important to me because I'm a black woman, double minority, and I feel like being able to see somebody in this position who looks like me is so important. She's going to represent me and my rights.
All right, we've also, in fact, spoken with the friends of Kamala Harris, listening to what they've had to say about this whole campaign.
How are you feeling right now? You know, election is almost about to, the polls are about to close. What are you picking up? How are you feeling right now?
Jubilant. Absolutely jubilant. The air is pregnant with all types of possibilities, and it is going to happen tonight. I think we're going to see the glass ceiling shattered into 1 million pieces, and I'm just honored to be able to be here to witness it.
And, you're wearing white. I observed that. This is a symbol of, I should say, women empowerment and everything else. Ma'am, how are you feeling? You think she can, pull this off? It's a very close race.
I think she can pull it off because I think that people like her message of unity. She shows strength, she shows knowledge, she's very intelligent, and she wants to unite. No one wants a lot of strife in the world. We're going to have differences of opinion, but you work together, you collaborate in our country and around the world. So I'm very glad that you're doing this coverage in India.
Okay. Ma'am, have you met Kamala Harris?
I have. I was here when Kamala Harris was here as a student. I admired her. I looked up to her, especially her leadership and her presence on campus.
What can you tell us about, her years at Howard University? How was she as somebody who was just a student here back then? We've heard that she was very bright back then too.
She was very bright, and it's really no different than what you see today. She was a leader here on campus. She set an example for younger students like myself to follow. So she's really no different than what she is today.
Thank you. And ma'am, one last question to you. What would this win mean for women of color in America and also across the globe, if you want to tell us that? Share your thoughts if she wins. What would that do to, women empowerment, especially in America?
First of all, representation matters. That means all little girls of color anywhere can know that they can be a leader of the free world, one of the most powerful nations in the world. She could be a leader. It's just going to be exciting to see her lead. We've had men. Let's see what this woman can do leading our country.
While Kamala Harris waits for the White House verdict, her ancestors who hail from the tiny hamlet of Thulasedrapuram in Tamil Nadu have been praying for her victory. It is at this temple that the US Vice President made a donation of 5,000 rupees between 2013 and 2014. India Today speaks to the residents who are rallying for Kamala's victory.
We are reporting from the Sri Dharmashastra temple in Thulasendrapuram, which is the ancestral village of US Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris. If I have to speak about this village, this is the village where Kamala Harris's maternal grandfather P.V. Gopalan used to live before he moved to Chennai. And this temple, it also has a stone board which mentions the name of Kamala Harris having donated rupees 5,000 for the temple consecration in the year 2013-2014. It also mentions the names of her aunt Sarla Gopalan and her grandfather P.V. Gopalan for donating money for the temple works and renovation works, etc. Now, as far as this temple is concerned, the villagers of Thulasendrapuram, they've been offering special prayers. Special pujas are being held in the mornings and in the evenings, praying for Kamala Harris's victory, because it's a high-stake battle that has, played out in the United States. And the results, of course, we're just hours away from knowing who will be the next U.S. president. And I'm joined by the villagers here. It includes a local councillor, the villagers, and someone from US, Chicago. She's Joy. She's come from Chicago all the way to Thulasendrapuram, and she's taken a room right outside the temple and staying there for the night so that she can be associated in some way or the other to Kamala Harris on the day the US presidential election results would be out. You're rooting for Kamala Harris. Tell us why. Why do you think she'll make the next president, and why do you think that'll be the right choice as far as the US is concerned?
Well, Kamala is a uniter, and I believe that that's what we need. She's promised to have advisors from the Republican Party, and I also think that's what we need. Enough with the division. Let's unite.
Normally, Tamil Nadu insisting for women's empowerment. If she's come, just US, no. Sunita Williams, see. She's heading for US NASA space like that. Everyone, it inspiring every individuals, ladies. So normally, if she got elected, no. So Indo-US relation will be definitely improve.
That, of course, is the sense from the ground, the mood on the ground. All of them really praying for Kamala Harris's victory. It was not an easy election, and it has huge consequences and implications, not just for the US, but for the rest of for the world. And that's the reason why they say every prayer counts, and that's why we're stepping in, praying for Kamala Harris. And they say because of Kamala Harris, Thulasendrapuram has also, become more evident on the global map. with video journalist Daniel Shilpa for India Today.
The most crucial election for the United States and the world, one of the key contenders, Donald Trump, cast his vote with wife Melania Trump in Florida. Trump says he isn't thinking about losing, but he doesn't have a victory speech just yet. Yes, Mom.
In a do-or-die election battle, former US President and Republican nominee Donald Trump appeared cool and calm as he walked in to cast his vote in Palm Beach, Florida. Wearing a red Make America Great Again hat, Trump was accompanied by his wife Melania, who was dressed in a chic Dior dress and donned classic black sunglasses. Trump sounded confident of victory.
No, I feel very confident. I have felt. We went in with a very big lead today, and it looks like Republicans have shown up in force.
Trump said he isn't thinking about losing, but doesn't have a victory speech prepared yet.
I ran a great campaign. I think it was maybe the best of the three. We did great in the first one. We did much better in the second one, but something happened. And this was the best. I would say this was the best campaign we ran.
He lashed out at former talk show host and American media personality Oprah Winfrey, who embraced Kamala Harris at her final rally in Pennsylvania.
I think Oprah should be ashamed of herself to say that. She should be ashamed. She knows me. She wanted to run with me as the vice president. She was going to be the vice president. She wrote me a letter. It's in the book. And now she goes and makes statements like that. She's a divider. And you know who else should be ashamed? Fox. Because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement. And I think it's a disgrace what Fox does. Because
Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, also voted in Ohio and sounded very hopeful of victory.
Good to see you all. Look, I feel good. You never know until you know, but I feel good about this race. I felt good about my own race a couple of years ago when I voted in this exact same spot. Hopefully it goes as well for President Trump and me as it went for me a couple of years ago in the state of Ohio.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are running a tight neck-to-neck race to the White House in what is being called the closest race in history of the high-stakes 2024 U.S. presidential elections. Bureau Report, India Today.
Rohit Sharma getting in more details. Rohit is joining us from Washington at this point in time. Washington, D.C. is where Rohit is. He's been traveling across the U.S., looking at various states and how they are voting. Rohit, we've been in conversation. You've always been saying that we don't know until we know definitively, but it does appear right now that it is advantage Donald Trump in most states, especially the swing states here, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if you look behind me, we are at the Kamala Harris event right now. We are at Howard University where she's supposed to speak. And if you look behind me, people are walking home. I did talk to some of them. They are disappointed. They honestly thought that, she had a better chance than what is being projected right now. She's lost the state of North Carolina. She's barely winning, or probably now she's already ahead in Virginia. But look at Pennsylvania, look at Michigan, look at all other swing states that we always knew were going to get close. But I think people they still have some glimmer of hope that something can happen overnight. Kind of flashback to 2016 when, John Podesta came on stage and said, why don't you guys go home? We'll have more to talk about tomorrow. And I think some people are having flashback of 2016. People are disappointed. One person I spoke to said that, she probably should have had more time running her campaign. She only had 100 days to put up this campaign and run for it. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is definitely leading in all those important swing states. And look, from here on, if she loses Pennsylvania, she's out of the race. If she loses Michigan, she cannot win 270. I mean, so Minnesota, Wisconsin, all those blue wall state, he's leading maybe by fraction of point. But remember, those fraction of point is how Joe Biden got to presidency in 2020. He won by 10,000 votes and 12,000 votes in some of those states. So it's looking bleak for Kamala Harris and the campaign right now. The supporters are disappointed. They think that, something will happen. Maybe the mail-in ballots will help her. One election official in Michigan told us that they are expecting the results to be out in the wee hours of Wednesday morning. So it could very well be over tomorrow or by afternoon tomorrow. We do not know, but looks like it's definitely advantage Trump right now.
All right, I'm going to thank you for the moment. Rohit getting in those details from Washington, D.C., telling us about what is expected in the next couple of hours. The results will be declared possibly in a few hours, possibly by tomorrow is what we know. Let's now take you through the latest coming in from the elections in the U.S. Let's take a look at these pictures, though. From preparing to celebrate big at the Mar-a-Lago headquarters, he will be spending the evening at his resort in Palm Beach in Florida. The former president is also hosting multiple dinners. Elon Musk is among the first ones to reach the venue. Kamala Harris has hosted an election night watch party at Howard University in D.C. She will be spending the election night at the university, her alma mater. Jill Biden cast a vote, and this picture of hers is now going viral. Guess why? She
is like myself to follow. So she's really no different than what she is today.
Thank you. And ma'am, one last question to you. What would this win mean for women of color in America and also across the globe, if you want to tell us that? Share your thoughts if she wins. What would that do to, women empowerment, especially in America?
First of all, representation matters. That means all little girls of color anywhere can know that they can be a leader of the free world, one of the most powerful nations in the world. She could be a leader. It's just going to be exciting to see her lead. We've had men. Let's see what this woman can do leading our country.
While Kamala Harris awaits for the White House verdict, her ancestors who hail from the tiny hamlet of Thulasedrapuram in Tamil Nadu have been praying for her victory. It is at this temple that the US Vice President made a donation of 5,000 rupees between 2013 and 2014. India Today speaks to the residents who are rallying for Kamala's victory.
We are reporting from the Sri Dharmashastra temple in Tulasendrapuram, which is the ancestral village of US Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris. If I have to speak about this village, this is the village where Kamala Harris's maternal grandfather, P.V. Gopalan, used to live before he moved to Chennai. And this temple, it also has a stone board which mentions the name of Kamala Harris having donated rupees 5,000 for the temple consecration in the year 2013-2014. It also mentions the names of her aunt, Sarla Gopalan, and her grandfather, P.V. Gopalan, for donating money for the temple works and renovation works, etc. Now, as far as this temple is concerned, the villagers of Tulasendrapuram, they've been offering special prayers. Special pujas are being held in the mornings and in the evenings, praying for Kamala Harris's victory, because it's a high-stake battle that has, played out in the United States. And the results, of course, we're just hours away from knowing who will be the next U.S. president. And I'm joined by the villagers here. It includes the local councillor, the villagers, and someone from US, Chicago. She's Joy. She's come from Chicago all the way to Tulasendrapuram, and she's taken a room right outside the temple and staying there for the night so that she can be associated in some way or the other to Kamala Harris on the day the US presidential election results would be out. You're rooting for Kamala Harris. Tell us why. Why do you think she'll make the next president, and why do you think that'll be the right choice as far as the U.S. is concerned?
Well, Kamala is a uniter, and I believe that that's what we need. She's promised to have advisors from the Republican Party, and I also think that's what we need. Enough with the division. Let's unite.
Normally, Tamil Nadu insisting for women's empowerment. If she's come just US, no, Sunita Williams, see, she's heading for US NASA space like that. Everyone, it inspiring every individuals, ladies. So normally, if she got elected, no. So Indo-US relation will be definitely improve.
That, of course, is the sense from the ground, the mood on the ground. All of them really praying for Kamala Harris's victory. It was not an easy election, and it has huge consequences and implications, not just for the US, but for the rest of the world. And that's the reason why they say every prayer counts, and that's why we're stepping in, praying for Kamala Harris. And they say because of Kamala Harris, Tulasendrapuram has also, become more evident on the global map. With video journalist Daniel, this is Shilpa Nair for India Today.
The most crucial election for the United States and the world, one of the key contenders, Donald Trump, cast his vote with wife Melania Trump in Florida. Trump says he isn't thinking about losing, but he doesn't have a victory speech just yet. Here's more.
In a do-or-die election battle, former US President and Republican nominee Donald Trump appeared cool and calm as he walked in to cast his vote in Palm Beach, Florida. Wearing a red Make America Great Again hat, Trump was accompanied by his wife Melania, who was dressed in a chic Dior dress and donned classic black sunglasses. Trump sounded confident of victory.
No, I feel very confident. I have felt. We went in with a very big lead today, and it looks like Republicans have shown up in force.
Trump said he isn't thinking about losing, but doesn't have a victory speech prepared yet.
I ran a great campaign. I think it was maybe the best of the three. We did great in the first one. We did much better in the second one, but something happened. And this was the best. I would say this was the best campaign we ran.
He lashed out at former talk show host and American media personality Oprah Winfrey, who embraced Kamala Harris at her final rally in Pennsylvania.
I think Oprah should be ashamed of herself to say that. She should be ashamed. She knows me. She wanted to run with me as a vice president. She was going to be the vice president. She wrote me a letter. It's in the book. And now she goes and makes statements like that. She's a divider. And you know who else should be ashamed? Fox. Because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement. And I think it's a disgrace what Fox does.
Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, also voted in Ohio and sounded very hopeful of victory.
Good to see you all. Look, I feel good. You never know until you know, but I feel good about this race. I felt good about my own race a couple of years ago when I voted in this exact same spot. Hopefully it goes as well for President Trump and me as it went for me a couple of years ago in the state of Ohio.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are running a tight neck-to-neck race to the White House in what is being called the closest race in history of the high-stakes 2024 US presidential elections. Bureau Report, India Today.
Rohit Sharma getting in more details. Rohit is joining us from Washington at this point in time. Washington, D.C. is where Rohit is. He's been traveling across the U.S., looking at various states and how they are voting. Rohit, we've been in conversation. You've always been saying that we don't know until we know definitively, but it does appear right now that it is advantage Donald Trump in most states, especially the swing states here, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if you look behind me, we are at the Kamala Harris event right now. We are at Howard University where she's supposed to speak. And if you look behind me, people are walking home. I did talk to some of them. They are disappointed. They honestly thought that, she had a better chance than what is being projected right now. She's lost the state of North Carolina. She's barely winning, or probably now she's already ahead in Virginia. But look at Pennsylvania, look at Michigan, look at all other swing states that we always knew were going to get get closed. But I think people they still have some glimmer of hope that something can happen overnight. Kind of flashback to 2016 when, John Podesta came on stage and said, why don't you guys go home? We'll have more to talk about tomorrow. And I think some people are having flashback of 2016. People are disappointed. One person I spoke to said that, she probably should have had more time running her campaign. She only had 100 days to put up this campaign and run for it. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is definitely leading in all those important swing states. And look, from here on, if she loses Pennsylvania, she's out of the race. If she loses Michigan, she cannot win 270. So Minnesota, Wisconsin, all those blue wall states, he's leading maybe by fraction of point. But remember, those fraction of point is how Joe Biden got to presidency in 2020. He won by 10,000 votes and 12,000 votes in some of those states. So it's looking bleak for Kamala Harris and the campaign right now. The supporters are disappointed. They think that, something will happen. Maybe the mail-in ballots will help her. One election official in Michigan told us that they are expecting the results to be out in the wee hours of Wednesday morning. So it could very well be over tomorrow or by afternoon tomorrow. We do not know, but looks like it's definitely advantage Trump right now.
All right, I'm going to thank you for the moment. Rohit getting in those details from Washington, D.C., telling us about what is expected in the next couple of hours. The results will be declared possibly in a few hours, possibly by tomorrow is what we know. Let's now take you through the latest coming in from the elections in the U.S. Let's take a look at these pictures, though. From preparing to celebrate big at the Mar-a-Lago headquarters, he will be spending the evening at his resort in Palm Beach in Florida. The former president is also hosting multiple dinners. Elon Musk is among the first ones to reach the venue. Kamala Harris has hosted an election night watch party at Howard University in D.C. She will be spending the election night at the university, her alma mater. Jill Biden cast a vote, and this picture of hers is now going viral. Guess why? She is seen wearing a red pantsuit while on her way to cast her vote. The color is associated, we know, with the Republican Party. This photograph has sent social media into a frenzy, with many questioning and joking if she at all decided to go ahead and vote for Donald Trump instead. Actor Anne Hathaway encouraged voters in colleges and universities to stay in line and cast the vote to the tune of her own rendition of Sabrina Carpenter's Please, Please, Please.
If you are on a line right now, please, please, please stay on the line.
All right, Beyonce also continued to show her support for Kamala Harris on election day as she jetted back to her hometown to vote. Now, last week, Beyonce took to the stage to endorse Harris as the U.S. president. Right, the race for America continues to be a top focus story right here. On the other side of this break, we're getting you details of how and why Trump is leading.
Has anybody won after losing one election in the middle? So Donald Trump is set to break history. 302 is where he's likely to end up. 91% chance of Donald Trump winning. I want to give you a sense of the votes that have been counted and where things stand. At this moment, of the votes that have been counted, 51% of the popular national vote has gone to Donald Trump. 47.3% vote for Kamala Harris. That's a 4% gap almost between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, suggesting quite unlike what the polls were suggesting, which was saying it's a 1% gap, or that'll be a very narrow gap nationally. Donald Trump quite comfortably in the lead. I have some more very insightful visualizations to show you, because a lot of the sense was that it would be in rural counties that Donald Trump would do well, which he has. If you look at small cities and rural areas, and so far there are voting trends for 1568 small cities and rural areas out of the 2,306. There's been a vote share swing in favor of the Republicans to the extent of 4.5%. So this has happened in small cities and rural areas. These are Trump counties and Trump bastions. However, even in core urban counties, we've got trends for 34 out of 68 counties so far. There's a big swing in favor of Donald Trump, 9.1%. So he's not just winning in the rural areas and the small cities, he's winning in core urban counties as well. Also in major suburbs next to the big cities, a 6.9% swing in favor of Donald Trump in comparison with the last election. In the medium-sized metros, a 5.2% swing in favor of the Republicans. What this suggests is that he's not just winning in the rural areas, which is what the polls had initially predicted. He's also doing well in the suburbs. He's doing well in the core urban counties. So where could this potentially end up? I want to give you a sense of where things stand. Remember, last time Joe Biden won 303 electoral college votes. He needs 270 to win. Donald Trump last time had 235. At this moment, Donald Trump is already at 248, so he's crossed his tally from the last time. The Democrats are at 213. Georgia and North Carolina have gone towards the Democrats, and therefore, at this moment, you've got 262 for Donald Trump versus 226 for Kamala Harris. 262 for Donald Trump means he's only 8 away from the magic finishing line. There are some more insights I want to show you, because this is to do with the 7 battleground states. In that big state of Pennsylvania, with 86% of the vote already counted, Donald Trump is at 50.9% of the vote versus Kamala Harris at 48.2% of the vote. So in that crucial state where Kamala Harris made such an effort in trying to go and mobilize voters, you've got Donald Trump leading. I want to come now to Arizona. In Arizona as well, again, look at the narrowness of the margin. 50% versus 49.2% for Kamala Harris, but a 0.8% lead for Donald Trump with about 55% of the vote counted. I want to come to Georgia, which has already been called in favor of Donald Trump. 95% of the vote counted there already. 51% of the vote cast for Donald Trump versus 48.5%. With the narrowest of margins, Kamala Harris trailing Donald Trump in the important battleground states, which is why Donald Trump could end up beyond 300, 51.2. So when you see the end results, see if Donald Trump ends up 300 par and Kamala Harris is at 235, it looked like a big election. But when you actually come to the crucial battleground states and compare the gaps, 2%, 3%, that's the kind of gap there is. This is North Carolina, which has been called in favor of Donald Trump, 51.2 versus 47.6. Michigan, 50.9 versus 47.1 for Kamala Harris. Wisconsin, 51.2 versus 47.4. These are narrow margins. Nevada yet to be counted, one of the states which are still left. But if you look at the swing, this will give you a sense of, remember, in Alaska and Nevada, votes are yet to be counted. In the other states, we have some trends. What these red arrows do, if you can see them on your screen, suggest where votes have gone in favor of the Republicans. Those are marked out in red arrows. Where votes have gone in favor of the Democrats, those are marked out in blue arrows. The lightness shows the less swing, the darkness shows the big swing. This suggests what a sweep election this has been. This has not been in the end result in a tough, close election. This has been quite a big sweep election in favor of Donald Trump, where the data seems to be suggesting that there's been a big movement of votes from the last time to this time in favor of Donald Trump. And remember, when 74% of the voters in the United States said they were unhappy with the direction their country was going in, that suggests a very high level of anti-incumbency, with 3 in 4 voters saying they don't like the job that the Democrats have done over the past 4 years.
You know, Rahul, I also want to ask you, because the swing states are so important, presidential election recounts have happened in these states in the past as well. Just explain to our viewers, how does that really work? And who is in a position to then ask for a recount? Who decides whether there is going to be a recount or not?
But if you look at the way things are going at this moment, with 262 already forecast for Donald Trump versus 226 for Kamala Harris, the chance of there being a requirement for a recount may not be very high, because the path to victory for Kamala Harris is becoming extremely narrow. With most of these so-called blue wall states, states which the Democrats had won quite convincingly last time and were expected to win again, states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, with those states going now towards Donald Trump, we may not really require a recount. And remember, the big fear was if Donald Trump loses and refuses to throw in the can and says that this election has been stolen, there may have been those possibilities. But if the numbers are suggesting what they are, then it may not really come down to that. I mean, if it's really tight, you want to ask for a recount, you surely can. But in the way the numbers are shaping up at this moment, because the gap is quite substantial at the national level, so it's not as if one candidate won more votes nationally and yet lost the Electoral College. Both the national votes, where Trump sits at 51.2% of the total votes, Kamala Harris only at 47.2%. There's a big gap there. So it may not necessarily come down to some of those fears which have been voiced in the past several days, Sneha.
All right, Rahul, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanking you for getting in those details and putting that big story into perspective. To tell our viewers as well, the information that we have with us right now is that Trump has bagged Georgia as well. So more good news for the Trump camp at this point in time. He's also reached the Mar-a-Lago club where he's set to celebrate the election results. So far, Tesla chief Musk, among others, is the first one to reach the venue. Democrat Kamala Harris has, though, to tell our viewers, captured New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Delaware, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, as always, as also Connecticut and Maryland. We have a series of reactions also coming in. Let's take a listen.
Our Republicans, we're doing really well. If you're in line, stay in line. Don't let them take you off that line. Vote. Stay in the line. They can't do anything about it. And vote. We're going to win it big. Thank you. Republicans, we're doing really well. Stay online, don't get offline, and vote. Make sure you get through and vote. We're going to have a big victory tonight. Well, it'll be just that. We want to bring everybody in. We want to be very inclusive, and we will be very inclusive. We have a great country, but we have a country that's in trouble. It's in big trouble in many ways, and we have to straighten it out. We have crime is through the roof. We have people pouring through our borders that are not exactly perfect. They come out of prisons. 13,000 people convicted of murder. We don't need this in our country. We have enough difficulty. We don't need that. So I think people saw that. And it just seems that the conservatives are voting very powerfully. It should never happen. A thing like that should never happen. This election should be over. They spend all this money on machines. And frankly, if they'd use paper ballots, it would be over by 10 o'clock. And by the way, the paper ballots would cost 8%, would be 8% of the cost. If they would use paper ballots, voter ID, proof of citizenship, and one-day voting, it would all be over by 10 o'clock in the evening. It's crazy. They use these very expensive computers, and I'm hearing in Pennsylvania they won't have an answer till 2 or 3 days from now. I think it's an absolute outrage if that's the case. Now, maybe it'll be later, but it's paper ballots in France. They went paper ballots because the mail-in was not working. It was corrupt. And in France, they went paper ballots. And at 10 o'clock in the evening, they had 37 million votes counted and done. They had a winner, they had a loser. And in this country, I mean, I'm just hearing that in certain states, it's going to be a long time, and it won't even be close. It won't even be that close. They say, I'm going to win the state, but it's going to take a long time to certify it.
I'm hopeful that Trump wins because I know that he provides results. You know, he doesn't just talk about this and that. He provides results, and that's why, you know, I'm supporting him.
The popular vote has to be Donald Trump because more people have common sense than not, and
all right, so we have, in fact, a confirmation right now, and this is through CNN, that Trump has bagged the second swing state of Georgia. Media reports, we're quoting CNN, say that Trump has won 2 of the 7 swing states. The first one being North Carolina, the second being Georgia, and this is through CNN. CNN has called it 2 of the 7 swing states has now been taken by Donald Trump. I'm going to go straight across to our foreign affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, is on ground zero. Geeta is in Florida with Donald Trump earlier. in fact, cast his ballot. It's great news. We have a confirmation, Geeta, of at least 2 swing states where Donald Trump has won.
Well, it looks pretty bad for the Kamala camp right now. Cedric Richmond, who was the Harris campaign co-chair, just came out and spoke, and he said that they will wait till the last voice is heard, the last vote is counted. That clearly shows that they are in trouble. He's also gone ahead and said he will not hear from the vice president tonight. He will speak tomorrow, which means that they are going to wait for the last vote so that they are sure whether they're winning or losing. On the other hand, 2 important swing states have gone to race when it comes to Australia, and we'll have to see how that goes for what long term. If you get to Australia, please start in your address.
Connect with Geeta in a moment from now, but Geeta is in Florida telling us about the fact that there's victory for Trump in at least 2 swing states, and we also have these pictures of Republicans the Reds are celebrating right now. It is America's battle of the ages, with Donald Trump ahead in 230 electoral votes and Kamala Harris in 210. It's a big boost to Trump. He has won the swing state of North Carolina and also the swing state of Georgia. He's also taken lead in the other 5 swing states, a total of 7. In other states like Texas, in Ohio, in Nebraska, and North Dakota, South Dakota, among others, Trump has taken the lead. Trump has also reached Mar-a-Lago Club, where he's set to celebrate the election results. Tesla chief Elon Musk is among the others to have reached the venue. Democrat Kamala Harris has captured New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Delaware, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, and Maryland as well. The 7 swing or battleground states of Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and Wisconsin are expected to effectively decide who will be the next president, the 47th president of the United States of America. Geeta is in fact back with us, getting us those pictures of the celebrations that have in fact broken out. Geeta, you're in Florida, but I understand that in Washington, D.C., where Kamala Harris was supposed to in fact watch the results and be with the supporters, Democrats there has not in fact turned up for the event as well, is what we understand. Clearly, I think the indication that this time around it is Trump leading, and it's good news for the Trump camp, because early indication gives us an idea about the fact that Republicans in fact are doing pretty well in many of the states apart from the swing states as well, isn't it?
It will be bad news for the Kamala camp, but when Cedric Richmond comes out and says that the vice president is not going to speak tonight, he'll speak tomorrow, and that they'll wait for the last vote to be counted. That certainly means that they are in trouble. Swing states going Donald Trump's way. Pennsylvania, about 70% of the votes have been counted, and he's ahead. So there is no way that Kamala Harris can now beat what the numbers are looking like for him. Popular vote aside, he's winning the Electoral College, and that's what matters here in the United States of America. So, okay, Fox is calling Georgia and North Carolina. Confirmed win. We can celebrate it here. Absolute celebration.
We'll go back to Geeta in a moment from now, but those are pictures that Geeta has sent us from Florida, where she is at this point in time, where the results are being watched very keenly right now. Georgia win for Donald Trump. He's also leading in the other 5 swing states is the latest information that we have with us. So it does appear that the race to the White House is in fact perhaps right now All right, we have more information coming in at this point in time. Kamala Harris is not speaking at the Harvard University today where she was supposed to. Large crowds have begun to leave, is what Rohit, in fact, was telling us earlier as well. So there's disappointment on, in fact, in the Democrat camp with Kamala Harris there, deciding not to speak at the Harvard where she was supposed to. Now, staring clearly at a defeat, she is possibly... All right, pictures on your screen right now out of the supporters leaving Harvard where they were. In fact, they had gathered right there to listen to Kamala Harris. These are pictures coming in from Washington, D.C., where Kamala Harris supporters were there, keen to listen to her speak at the Harvard University. But she isn't doing it, is what we know. Staring at a defeat. She was, in fact, supposed to speak at Harvard, but she isn't going to be speaking there in Harvard University, her alma mater, where the supporters had also gathered. So there's disappointment for the Democrats with Kamala Harris not turning up at the Harvard University tonight, where she was, in fact, supposed to speak. There clearly is a somber mood at Kamala Harris's alma mater, Harvard University, as hopes there for victory seem to be dimming even further. Pictures, in fact, are on your left side of the screen of the Republicans celebrating there on what appears to be an inevitable victory there for Donald Trump these elections. On the right side are pictures, in fact, that we had previously put out. These are all pictures of Kamala Harris from the campaign. And right now what we know is that she isn't speaking at the Harvard University, her alma mater, where she was supposed to, as hopes for a victory only dim. This was Kamala Harris's watch party where the supporters had gathered very keenly to listen in to her. However, we have pictures, and we'll put that out once again for our viewers, of the supporters leaving the Harvard University. Clearly, a somber mood among the students there, faculty and alumni, as the night wears on, with their hopes that Harris could possibly become the first president to graduate, is, in fact, dimming even further. Harvard, in fact, had prepared for a historic moment, what they hoped would have been a historic moment, but it wasn't to be. A long list of supporters was seen, and we have those supporters, as you can see in these pictures, who are leaving the university right now. The people, supporters stretching down the street as people gathered after casting their vote to listen in to her. This was a watch party that was organized. And this time around, there is disappointment, and they are leaving. Remember, Kamala Harris had graduated from Harvard University in 1986 with a bachelor's degree in political science and economics. This is effectively her alma mater, where she had promised to, in fact, speak to her supporters, the faculty, the alumni, and this event has now been cancelled. What a disappointment there, Geeta. We have these pictures of the supporters, the alumni, the faculty who are leaving the Harvard University at this point in time where Kamala Harris was set to speak, Geeta. All right, we'll just go back to Geeta in a moment from now. Gaurav Sawant also joining in with the very latest on that. Gaurav, these pictures, I think, kind of sum up what to expect in the next few hours. Great disappointment for the alma mater, for, in fact, the faculty and the alumni who were ready to welcome their alma mater, Kamala Harris, but she's not speaking at that event in Washington, D.C. at Harvard.
You know, the writing now appears to be on the wall. Elon Musk had called it out a couple of hours ago when he said it's game, set and match. But there were some who argued that it's perhaps a little too soon, and is he jumping the gun on this? But when you look at the trends in the 7 swing states and just look at the numbers, if you talk about Pennsylvania, 2016, the Republicans had it, 2020, the Democrats had it, but now 2024, Trump appears to be leading here. Georgia, 16 electoral college seats. Republicans in 2016, Democrats in 2020. Joe Biden, once again, Georgia leaning very clearly in favor of Donald Trump right now. So just look at all these numbers and how they stack up. And perhaps, Team Kamala Harris was disappointed with the outcome, especially in Pennsylvania. Now, when you look at all these swing states and how they voted in 2020, so Pennsylvania was Democrat, Georgia was Democrat, North Carolina remained Republican even then, Michigan Democrat, Arizona Democrat, Wisconsin Democrat, Nevada remains Democrat 2016 and 2020. So, desperately to remain in the battle, Kamala Harris needed at least 3 of these 7 swing states. And many of her supporters still say it's too soon to call. The Republicans have popped the bubbly a bit too soon, even if informally. Formally, everyone's waiting for results. But then this disappointment at the university is for all to see.
Gaurav, also put this into perspective. How and why are these swing states important? We know that these aren't committed to any ideology, any political party, and they keep on changing. But these are the states effectively that in a way decide who wins the race to the White House. What has happened in the past? Put this into perspective.
Oh, you're absolutely right. In fact, not just the swing states. In the swing states, the Americans are now going down to counties. Which county votes which way? And it also depends on the population. Now, the Democrats were hoping that the women voters would come out in very large numbers and cutting across whether, they're Latina voters or whether they're African American, whether they're Asian women or white American women. They hoped all the women voters would go, Kamala Harris's way or the Democrat way. Has that actually happened? The Republicans say clearly not. On the other hand, if you look at the African-American male voters or the Latino voters or the Asian voters, especially second generation, and the white Americans without college degrees. Now, look, they're going down to that fine line, the kind of degrees, the kind of education, the background, the blue-collar job, the white-collar job, and that is where Donald Trump made that big push. And that last minute, that 11th hour push by Donald Trump, where he quoted Ronald Reagan and took that Ronald Reagan line, "Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?" And when you vote, look at that answer. So, are you saving more money in your grocery bill? Are you spending more money? The biggest question, that Rahul was also just talking about a short while back. 74% of the respondents said that they were unhappy with the way things are being run, and yet this battle was too close to call as far as pollsters were concerned. Though there were many in the United States of America who did say that Donald Trump has a much better chance to come back because of this answer. 1, inflation, economy. 2, the immigration, the number of illegals who are entering the United States of America. So, in India, when you talk about that Ghuspaitiya issue in elections, the Ghuspaitiya, it seems very clearly, was also a major issue in the United States of America.
Be with us, Gaurav. I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now for more details on that big story that we are tracking very closely. Meanwhile, listening from the campaign co-chair of Kamala Harris and what they've had to say about the leads and about the elections, in fact, so far. Let's take a listen.
Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back as spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back as spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back as spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back as spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back as spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President.
There's a short statement there from the campaign co-chair of Kamala Harris, who says the Vice President will not be, in fact, speaking tonight. You won't hear from her tonight, but tomorrow she will be speaking. So there was a short statement that has come in now detailing on what is expected. But what's really clear right now is that this is, in fact, en road really for Kamala Harris, isn't it, Geeta? With enough indications and more that she indeed is staring, Geeta, at a defeat.
Neha, could you repeat your question, please?
You know, Geeta, we've just heard from the co-chair of the campaign for Kamala Harris has confirmed that she isn't speaking in Harvard University, but we will hear from her tomorrow is what he says. I think the indication clear and there for us to see that this perhaps is end road, isn't it, as far as her campaign to the White House is concerned.
Absolutely. That's what we've been reporting, that with Richmond coming out and saying that she's not going to speak tonight, and she will be speaking tomorrow, it's very clear that they do not want disappointed Democratic supporters waiting till 1 a.m. only to know that Pennsylvania will be called for Trump, and then they will have to go absolutely sad. There is no statement that Vice President Harris can make till all the votes are counted to even concede defeat. So she cannot come out and make a statement right now. We do know that there will be a victory speech over here by Trump should Pennsylvania be called in some time from now. And Harris will have to wait till the last vote is counted so that she can actually come out and concede defeat. That will happen tomorrow. So a significant moment over here. Should Pennsylvania be called, it is going to be historic in many ways. It's over a century after that we'll have a president in the United States of America serving a non-consecutive term. So a very important event over here. It is no joking or laughing matter that Trump, who's been divisive, who's been polarizing, who's been somebody who's either loved or absolutely hated by the United States of America, is actually going to come back to power. And we are here at the Trump headquarters. Look at the visuals over here. Excited people waiting. That's where President Trump will come and address the crowd here. So
be with us. I'm just going to, in fact, get in this piece of information for our viewers that you see also on your screens right now. And we're quoting the US media that indicates and reports that Trump has 95% chances of winning. That's New York Times, with Trump saying that, in fact, with New York Times saying that Trump has 95% chances of winning the elections. This, according to the New York Times. So we're reporting, in fact, quoting New York Times at this point in time, which has given enough indication and more that it is, in fact, a historic win for Donald Trump, who comes back, as the president of the US, Geeta, for a non-consecutive time. And this is historic in that sense as well. There were several odds that were stacked against Donald Trump, as we've seen over the last few years or so. But clear indication that he is, in fact, winning that race in the White House, Geeta.
That's right. We've been saying it here as well on our network, following very closely the numbers that are coming out from various quarters, all of them calling some of the swing states, and they've projected wins in others. So it's almost clear that Trump is winning this election. And with Harris now not delivering her speech, that again confirms the fact that in some time from now, you'll have Donald Trump on the stage over here, addressing his people and accepting the victory that will be declared with the win in Pennsylvania. So more than 95% chances, Neha, he is likely to become the next president, the 47th president of the United States of America.
All right. Though the counting, in fact, is on. Still, Geeta, in 5 of the swing states, but he has the leads in many of these 5 swing states. In fact, in all of these 5 swing states, to put it correctly, 2 of the states where, and we're reporting from CNN, where in Georgia and in North Carolina, it is clear that Trump, Republicans have won those 2 swing states, isn't it?
Wisconsin. I think a lot of pride over here.
Geeta, we were talking about the swing states, but at least in 5, he is leading and 2 have been called out by CNN. And we're reporting from there about Trump winning Georgia and also North Carolina.
Is that question for me?
Yes, Geeta. Okay, I'm just going to go back to Geeta Mohan, our foreign affairs editor, reporting from Florida at this point in time. Donald Trump, in fact, cast his ballot earlier today. Rahul Kaval continues to be with us. Rahul, we just, in fact, put out that information, quoting New York Times and how they're reporting about 95% chances of Donald Trump then marching to the White House, isn't it? It's a big boost for Donald Trump, winning in 2 swing states, North Carolina and Georgia. Not just that, he's also leading in other 5 swing states of Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin and Nevada. Trump is ahead in 230 electoral votes and Kamala Harris in 210 right now. And 246 is what we have right now as far as the latest figures for Trump is concerned. As far as the electoral votes are concerned, Geeta is back with us. 246 for Donald Trump, 210 there for Kamala Harris as far as the electoral votes are concerned. Geeta, 270 is the majority mark.
Well, that's right, but these numbers don't make a difference because the numbers that have stacked up right now are the Republican states, the Democrat states, and the few swing states that have been called. It all depends on, and of course, California has not been called, but it is Democratic, so we know the numbers will stack up with Kamala Harris. But once the swing states are called, which is about 70 to 80% counting is over in Pennsylvania, and Trump has a lead. We're looking at Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia again has been called, North Carolina has been called, Arizona, where Trump is leading or Trump is going to win. I have Hindi audio coming into my ears. Sneha, but continuing with what we're saying. Okay, that can be rectified. But these are the swing states that really make a difference, that really matter.
All right, we'll just try and fix that for you, Geeta, in a moment from now. But we can hear you loud and clear. So you were telling us about the fact that it's pretty clear that this is Trump's in fact, U.S. media reporting on Trump very likely. So 95% chance of him winning elections. He's got 95% chance. Geeta says perhaps more than that. It is very, very clear. He is leading right now with 247 electoral votes. That's the latest figure. And Kamala Harris, in fact, lags behind with 210 electoral votes. Is very likely to win the White House, according to the New York Times. 270 viewers is the majority mark, and it seems that Trump is going to be reaching that magic figure. Geeta explaining to us why it's very, very apparent now that there is going to be nothing else to, in fact, really speculate on at this point in time, given that it's clear Donald Trump is winning the elections. For the non-consecutive time, perhaps Donald Trump is set to be the president of America. On your screen, pictures of Trump supporters right there. Right now, who are in fact celebrating. These are in fact Indians, in fact, who are celebrating at this point in time. A huge Indian community that resides in the United States of America, and jubilant mood is what we can see on the ground, with celebrations that have in fact broken out. In fact, there's a party which has been hosted by Donald Trump already. Is leading with 247 electoral votes.
पूरी South Asian community, Sikh community, Muslim community,
Okay, so we have members of the Indian community who are celebrating Trump's, what seems to be his possible victory, very, very big possibilities with 247 electoral votes in his favor, and Kamala Harris lagging behind with 210. Celebrations have broken out in various parts of the country. These are pictures coming in right now of members of the Indian community. Also, we saw pictures earlier from Florida where Geeta is right now with, in fact, a bunch of supporters there, Republicans who are celebrating the possible victory of Donald Trump. The majority mark is at 270, with Trump at 247 at this point in time now. Trump is now very likely to win the White House. According to the New York Times, and 95% is the prediction that has been given. The possibility of him winning these elections stands at 95%. Geeta, in fact, is back with us. Geeta, we have these pictures, in fact, of members of the Indian community who are, in fact, celebrating. On your screen are pictures of celebrations that have, in fact, broken out. With Trump, New York Times says, very likely to win. The prediction is that of 95%.
Well, that's right. It's now a decision that only has to be called on Pennsylvania. And then you'll have Trump come out here. It will be followed by massive celebrations across Florida, particularly here at the Palm Beach, the West Palm Beach. And it is going to be ecstatic moments that you see and witness from the Republican supporters and Republicans who are here. The Trump camp right now is in Mar-a-Lago. They're watching all these channels very, very closely. He is accompanied by Elon Musk as well, and many others who supported Trump. And they are going to then come to the convention center, which is where the watch party is underway, which is where we are, the only Indian channel to be here. And then again, after addressing the people and the supporters over here, we will go out to see how people will continue taking the party from the convention center out into the streets of Florida. So an important day. It is a foregone conclusion with most of the swing states going Trump's way. But again, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, 3 swing states that are critical and are yet to be called.
All right. Be with us, Geeta. I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now. Geeta is in Florida, and these are pictures, in fact, on the right side of your screen from the Trump headquarters. All right, these are pictures coming in from the Trump headquarters right now. We'll just be, in fact, getting in more details at this point in time. However, celebrations have broken out at the Trump camp. As Republicans, the Reds are celebrating. Let's take a listen.
Politics that he has used to great success in this country.
And Carl, I think he's trailing his prior 2020 numbers with whites.
All right, celebration have broken out at the Trump camp. As you can see, these are pictures from the Trump headquarters right now in Florida, where these pictures are coming in from. Geeta, you were telling us that Trump is soon expected to speak with the supporters, isn't it? Geeta, if you can hear me, we'll try and go back to Geeta in a moment from now, but we're reporting on these pictures that are coming in from Florida in the US, the Trump headquarters, where Reds are celebrating. What's clear is that Trump is, in fact, winning the race to the White House, with him leading in 247 electoral seats, as opposed to Kamala Harris, who's lagging behind with 210. The majority mark of 270, that's the magic figure. And it seems to be pretty easy right now. It is inevitable, is what is being said. Very, very likely. A chance of 95%, says the New York Times, of Trump winning the race to the White House. We're getting you the final countdown up to the elections in the United States of America. In a few hours or so, perhaps it will be clear and the name is going to be formally announced of the winner. Geeta continues to be with us. Geeta, expecting a word from Donald Trump, expecting him to address the supporters in just any time now. What can you tell us? We have pictures from Trump headquarters right now in Florida.
We don't need that. You know, we went in with a very big lead, so we just had to sort of keep it. But I hear it's beyond.
Geeta.
And it's a movement. There's never been a movement like this, and we're going to turn our country around.
Trump prepares to celebrate at Mar-a-Lago headquarters is what we know. We are putting out these pictures from the Trump headquarters. And Geeta was telling us that he will be there. This is going to be his, in fact, speech, his address to the supporters. On the other hand, in a stark contrast, there, Kamala Harris has, in fact, refused, in fact, to speak with her supporters. This event was planned at Howard University in Washington, D.C., her alma mater. And right now, what we know is that she isn't speaking, is what her campaign manager has clearly indicated. You'll hear from her tomorrow, says Cedric Richmond. On the other hand, Trump is celebrating and telling our viewers a little about the 7 swing states, which as always we know give an indication about who could be winning the race to the White House. The 7 swing states and how they are looking at this point in time. As far as North Carolina is concerned, it's a victory for Donald Trump there, which has in fact been said by CNN. So it's victory in North Carolina. In Arizona, which is one of the 7 states Donald Trump is leading, is what we know. Apart from that, in Georgia, CNN says that Trump has won. So that's a state that has been called out by CNN already. In Michigan, again, Trump is leading, is what is clear in the early indications. And in Nevada, the result, of course, is awaited. So counting is underway, and the results in the other swing states of Nevada is expected. Pennsylvania, considered as the entry point to the White House, really is where Trump seems to be leading, is very, very clear. Wisconsin, where Trump is leading, once again, these are swing states that we're talking about, which do not conform to any political ideology, which do not have a permanent commitment of sorts to any political party, but seem to be swinging in their opinions and the patterns in which they vote. And that's how the swing states look at this point in time. That aside as well, even for half a second, Geeta, if we were to look at the other states, not just the swing states, where we know how things are at this point in time, Geeta, Trump is leading, isn't it? It's clear, and the writing is pretty much on the wall, isn't it, Geeta?
Well, that's right. The writing is on the wall. He is leading. The other states counting is still on, and which is why Richmond has come out and said that they'll wait for every vote to be counted, the last vote to be counted, because only then can she concede defeat. She cannot concede defeat before the votes are counted, and that in itself spells disaster for the Kamala camp. It means they've read the writing on the wall. She's gone back home. She's not going to address the people tonight at the Kamala headquarters, and that in itself shows that once Pennsylvania is called, in moments from now, Trump is going to emerge on that very stage. The party over here has begun. The coverage that was live over here for now hasn't stopped. The music is on, drinks are on, food is on. So it is certainly turning into a party place. And it's not just here. There are hotels here in West Palm Beach, which are now booked. Bars, the terrace bars, all of them, they were booked to full capacity to party, and which is what we're going to see. All of them are partying, and when the Trump speech gets over here, then he is certainly going to leave the space, and then people from here are also going to move the party not just to their respective hotels, but to but to the streets as well. So we'll cover that as well. So the writing on the wall, Sneha, it's quite clear that it is going to be Trump. Okay, that's Pennsylvania for you. That's Pennsylvania for you. Pennsylvania has been solved. That's the mood now here in the Trump headquarters. Pennsylvania has been solved. Breaking news here in Florida. Fox News has just called Pennsylvania. There you see. And in Pennsylvania, it is a win through and through. In moments from now, look at what's happening around me. In moments from now, there you go. The 19 electoral votes that Trump requires has now been taken, and Trump has bagged it. USA has begun to look at that. Look at that. That's the goal of the team here. At the Trump headquarters. Excited? So that's how excited the people over here are. That's just news that's coming in. Pennsylvania has been called, and Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States of America. You can't miss the visuals here. Look at that. Look at that. You just can't miss the visuals.
Okay. Geeta telling us about another swing state of Pennsylvania. It has been called and Trump has won that too. So we have a confirmation right now on. Geeta is telling us about Pennsylvania. CNN has reported on Georgia and North Carolina. He's won Georgia, North Carolina, and also Geeta is telling us Pennsylvania, which has been called. That's the big story that we are breaking at this point in time of the 7. Trump has won 3 and is leading in the other 4. A big victory for the Reds with Trump winning yet another swing state of Pennsylvania. Big development that we're reporting on, Geeta, is in Florida to tell our viewers that the party is very much on as far as the Trump camp is concerned. In fact, the party has been organized already by the Republicans who are already celebrating early celebrations there, but enough indication that it is undoubtedly perhaps a win for Donald Trump this time around. We'll continue to get you more on that big story even as we get to the very latest of Donald Trump winning another swing state of Pennsylvania apart from North Carolina and Georgia. Elections in America continues to be our top focus story right here. For the moment, we're pausing for a quick commercial break. However, celebrations have broken out at the Trump camp. As Republicans, the Reds are celebrating. Let's take a listen.
Politics that he has used to great success in this country.
Carl, I think he's trailing his prior 2020 numbers with whites.
All right, celebration have broken out at the Trump camp. As you can see, these are pictures from the Trump headquarters right now in Florida, where these pictures are coming in from. Geeta, you were telling us that Trump is soon expected to speak with the supporters, isn't it? Geeta, if you can hear me, we'll try and go back to Geeta in a moment from now, but we're reporting on these pictures that are coming in from Florida in the US, the Trump headquarters, where Reds are celebrating. What's clear is that Trump is, in fact, winning the race to the White House, with him leading in 247 electoral seats, as opposed to Kamala Harris, who is lagging behind with 210. The majority mark of 270, that's the magic figure. And it seems to be pretty easy right now. It is inevitable, is what is being said. Very, very likely. A chance of 95%, says the New York Times, of Trump winning the race to the White House. We're getting you the final countdown up to the elections in the United States of America. In a few hours or so, perhaps it will be clear and the name is going to be formally announced of the winner. Geeta continues to be with us. Geeta, expecting a word from Donald Trump, expecting him to address the supporters in just any time now. What can you tell us? We have pictures from Trump headquarters right now in Florida.
We don't need that. You know, we went in with a very big lead, so we just had to sort of keep it. But I hear it's beyond.
Geeta.
And it's a movement. There's never been a movement like this, and we're going to turn our country around.
Trump prepares to celebrate at Mar-a-Lago headquarters, is what we know. We are putting out these pictures from the Trump headquarters. And Geeta was telling us that he will be there. This is going to be his, in fact, speech, his address to the supporters. On the other hand, in a stark contrast, there, Kamala Harris has, in fact, refused, in fact, to speak with her supporters. This event was planned at Howard University in Washington, D.C., her alma mater. And right now, what we know is that she isn't speaking, is what her campaign manager has clearly indicated. You'll hear from her tomorrow, says Cedric Richmond. On the other hand, Trump is celebrating and telling our viewers a little about the 7 swing states, which as always we know give an indication about who could be winning the race to the White House. The 7 swing states and how they are looking at this point in time. As far as North Carolina is concerned, it's a victory for Donald Trump there, which has in fact been said by CNN. So it's victory in North Carolina. In Arizona, which is one of the 7 states Donald Trump is leading, is what we know. Apart from that, in Georgia, CNN says that Trump has won. So that's a state that has been called out by CNN already. In Michigan, again, Trump is leading, is what is clear in the early indications. And in Nevada, the result, of course, is awaited. So counting is underway, and the results in the other swing states of Nevada is expected. Pennsylvania, considered as the entry point to the White House, really is where Trump seems to be leading, is very, very clear. Wisconsin, where Trump is leading, once again, these are swing states that we're talking about, which do not conform to any political ideology, which do not have a permanent commitment of sorts to any political party, but seem to be swinging in their opinions and the patterns in which they vote. And that's how the swing states look at this point in time. That aside as well, even for half a second, Geeta, if we were to look at the other states, not just the swing states, where we know how things are at this point in time, Geeta, Trump is leading, isn't it? It's clear, and the writing is pretty much on the wall, isn't it, Geeta?
Well, that's right. The writing is on the wall. He is leading. The other states counting is still on, and which is why Richmond has come out and said that they'll wait for every vote to be counted, the last vote to be counted, because only then can she concede defeat. She cannot concede defeat before the votes are counted, and that in itself spells disaster for the Kamala camp. It means they've read the writing on the wall. She's gone back home. She's not going to address the people tonight at the Kamala headquarters, and that in itself shows that once Pennsylvania is called, in moments from now, Trump is going to emerge on that very stage. The party over here has begun. The coverage that was live over here for now hasn't stopped. The music is on, drinks are on, food is on. So it is certainly turning into a party place. And it's not just here. There are hotels here in West Palm Beach which are now booked. Bars, the terrace bars, all of them they were booked to full capacity to party, and which is what we're going to see. All of them are partying. And when the Trump speech gets over here, then he is certainly going to leave the space, and then people from here are also going to move the party not just to their respective hotels, but to the streets as well. So we'll cover that as well. So the writing on the wall, Sneha, it's quite clear that it is going to be Trump. Okay, that's Pennsylvania for you. That's Pennsylvania for you. Pennsylvania has been solved. That's the mood now here in the Trump headquarters. Pennsylvania has been solved. Breaking news here in Florida. Fox News has just called Pennsylvania. There you see. And Pennsylvania, it is a win through and through. In moments from now, look at what's happening around me. In moments from now, there you go. The 19 electoral votes that Trump requires has now been taken, and Trump bagged it. USA has begun here. Look at that. Look at that. That's the goal of the team here. As the Trump headquarters. Excited? So that's how excited the people over here are. That's just news that's coming in. Pennsylvania has been called, and Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States of America. You can't miss the visuals here. Look at that. Look at that. You just can't miss the visuals.
Okay. Geeta telling us about another swing state of Pennsylvania. It has been called and Trump has won that too. So we have a confirmation right now on. Geeta is telling us about Pennsylvania. CNN has reported on Georgia and North Carolina. He's won Georgia, North Carolina, and also Geeta is telling us Pennsylvania, which has been called. That's the big story that we are breaking at this point in time of the 7 Trump
in Jharkhand, Bihar.
Key swing states, and this clearly is sounding his victory already with Kamala Harris. In the latest we hear, her supporters have already left the Howard University address venue. She was to be addressing that venue. It appears that Kamala Harris's team has decided she will not speak today. She is not going to appear at that venue. Many of the supporters there leaving that venue early, several teary-eyed, very upset. But on the contrary, we're looking at Trump supporters, a bunch of them, Indians there doing the bhangra, holding the Trump flags, the banners with Trump's name on it. This is Donald Trump, who's likely to be winning this presidential election. He is, in fact, at this point, at a very crucial stage where a few more seats will decide. 270 is the decider. A few more seats to decide his, or rather announce his victory. But it clearly looks like at this point, Donald Trump is near to victory. He wins North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, very important swing states. And this already making it abundantly clear that Donald Trump is the next president of America. Where we know that there was immense support for Kamala Harris all through the weeks of this presidential elections. We had huge pop stars, many celebrities. The list could only go on, those who came out in support for Kamala Harris. And yet we did know that this was going to be a neck-and-neck fight, but it appears for the moment, the numbers that are stacked, 214 for Kamala Harris, while 247 for Donald Trump. And that's showing a huge lead for Donald Trump. unlikely that Kamala Harris could catch up. And the fact that he's managed to win the biggest swing state of Pennsylvania itself giving a huge indicator that Donald Trump could clinch victory. He is likely to be the president of the United States. The biggest swing state of Pennsylvania itself was where all eyes were on, and it appears that Donald Trump has managed to win this big. So this is a US election that will go down in history, and undoubtedly the 2019 elections that Donald Trump lost almost was pushed out of the election race itself on many cases that were leveled against him. It was at one point deemed as unlikely that he could even contest the US presidential elections. But the man has really come out of that storm, literally manages to clinch victory. In moments from now, we'll hear an announcement, but it's quite clear here that Donald Trump has inched closer to victory. Very unlikely that Kamala Harris will catch up. The numbers as it's stacked right now is Kamala Harris shown at 216 with Donald Trump at 247. 214 Kamala Harris. There you have the numbers on our screens itself. 214 Kamala Harris with Donald Trump at 247. And the fact that he's managed to win the swing states itself is a big telltale. At this point, we know that Donald Trump has promised several trade policies, lower taxes, and the fact that he's been opposing immigration, ensuring hard walls along the borders. That's the promises that he's made for the Americans, and it appears that America has voted and largely in favor of Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris in the race to the White House in the big boost here for Trump. He's won the 3 swing states. We showed North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. In fact, he's also leading in other 4 swing states of Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada. Trump is ahead in 247 electoral votes and Kamala Harris at 214. Trump has also reached Mar-a-Lago Club, where he's set to celebrate with his fans and the followers there. The projected victory is quite clear here. So he's already deciding, while Kamala Harris decides to withdraw from that victory speech. It was supposed to be a sign-off. In a way, she was supposed to be engaging her followers at the Harvard University, but that has now been cancelled. But Donald Trump continues with his celebration. It's likely that Tesla chief Elon Musk also will be right there. This is a big venue where huge crowds are likely to gather to celebrate Trump's victory. And staring at defeat is Kamala Harris here. She's cancelled all her public appearances for today. Let's hear it. Voices coming in from America.
Just that. We want to bring everybody in. We want to be very inclusive, and we will be very inclusive. We have a great country, but we have a country that's in trouble. It's in big trouble in many ways. And we have to straighten it out. We have crime is through the roof. We have people pouring through our borders that are not exactly perfect. They come out of prisons. 13,000 people convicted of murder. We don't need this in our country. We have enough difficulty. We don't need that. So I think people saw that. And it just seems that the conservatives are voting very powerfully.
We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation.
What we can expect early आके किसी भी moment आज या कल वो victory declare कर सकता है. That is expected क्योंकि that he has done that in 2020, but that will be nullified once we get the final results. So picture अभी बाकी है, game खत्म नहीं हुआ है, it's continuation because क्या होता है कभी urban vote पहले आते हैं, कभी rural votes पहले आते हैं, कभी किस candidate के voters है, तो that goes on and that's what is going to go on with this 4 battleground states.
आई एम वेरी होपफुल. कहते हैं जब तक एक लास्ट वोट काउंट ना हो जाए तो हमको होप नहीं छोड़नी चाहिए. एंड आई एम स्टिल कीपिंग द होप क्योंकि मैंने लास्ट 3 महीने आई हैव टूर्ड 17 स्टेट्स in last 12 weeks. हम 12 मतलब 70 states में गए हैं. Every weekend I was out. कम से कम 1000 से ज़्यादा हमने door knock किए हैं as part of South Asians for Harris. So I'm still very hopeful कि जब तक अभी वोट्स आने बाकी हैं, अर्बन और रूरल वोट्स आने बाकी हैं, जब तक पूरा काउंटिंग हो जाता है, I'm not losing hope.
All right, those are large numbers of Indians who are speaking to India today. Exclusive ground reports coming in as Trump is on his way to victory. I'm going to take you through all the states that has already declared its results and those that are awaiting at this point, clearly showing signs of Trump taking it away to become the next president of America. North Carolina, if I could take you through, starting with a swing state, Trump has won and that declaration has already been announced. And then you have Arizona, where Trump is set to be leading. Next, you have Georgia, where Trump has already won, and these are very important states. As we see Michigan, on the other hand, where Trump again has managed to lead so far. There's no result that's been announced, but he's leading there. Nevada, on the other hand, the results are yet to be announced. Pennsylvania, a very strong, big swing state. Trump is set to be leading. In fact, we hear now that Trump has managed to win Pennsylvania. And also Wisconsin, where Trump is currently leading. So these are the 7 swing states that really act as a decider. In fact, the election itself was hinging on these 7 swing states. So Trump wins the biggest swing state of Pennsylvania. That's the latest we have. While Elon Musk hailing his victory, Donald Trump clinching 3 key states. So it's important to see here that the biggest supporter and the man who's really been through thick and thin with Donald Trump is Elon Musk, Tesla CEO. He hails Trump's win in Pennsylvania. Musk says, soon you'll be free to build America. America is a nation of builders. Musk putting out this post there in support of Donald Trump, saying America is a nation of builders. Soon you will be free to build America. Donald Trump now eyeing all those battle states, the battleground states, the 7 key states, and he manages to win 3 of them. And that's a big, big win for him already. That really clearly indicates that Donald Trump at this point is on his way to victory. Elon Musk putting out that post itself, man who's really supported Donald Trump through and through, has now put out this post in confidence, almost likely that he too understands, soaking in that Donald Trump has managed to win this presidential race, a real historic one for Donald Trump indeed. For the Republicans itself, this may have been a real neck-and-neck fight, but from what we see, the results as we come closer to the end here is showing how Trump is really leaps ahead. It wasn't a real neck-and-neck fight. At least from the numbers that we have here, this clearly shows Trump in big lead. The fact that he's managed to win Pennsylvania is a big indicator that this wasn't really a close election. Trump, of course, promised to ensure that he ends illegal immigration. That was one of his strongest calls, as he asked for Americans to stay united and ensure that he cuts down on immigration and illegal immigration, put a hard stop to it. Also spoke of trade policy and lowering taxes for America. These 3 key points seem to have really worked in favor of Donald Trump. And as for India, of course, Donald Trump is seen as India's friend. He's more often than not called Modi, his very close friend. At any given opportunity, would hail India, would hail the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There were pujas that were carried out for Donald Trump in India extensively by some of the priests in India who prayed for his victory. And it appears that Donald Trump has really managed to clinch it. He's eyeing the 7 battleground states, of which the declaration for 3 has already come through. And it appears that he's managed to win the biggest one, and that's Pennsylvania. This is, of course, a big disappointment for Kamala Harris, a last-minute pick for the Democrats. It was Joe Biden all the way until the fag end when the Democrats made that hard decision to push Vice President Kamala Harris in the running. Of course, Donald Trump, with his age and health issues, it was a last-minute decision for him to drop out. Could that have been a factor here for the Democrats to lose out on their key votes? These last-minute votes, only time will tell, and maybe further deliberations into what led to the Democrats' loss here were established. But for now, it appears that the promises Donald Trump made to the people of America, be it anti-immigration, stronger trade policy, and lowering taxes for the country, seems to have really worked in his favor. This is the 7 key battleground states that at this point is in contention, of which it's quite clear here that Donald Trump has managed to win already the 3 key states, particularly that of Pennsylvania. The latest numbers that we're showing for you here, 2014, that Kamala Harris has managed to win out of the 270, which is the majority mark there, 247 Donald Trump. So that's really a big gap there, and very unlikely, as we hear from political experts coming from America and our reporters telling us, highly unlikely that Kamala Harris will be able to pick up her numbers to the fag end. Well, this is certainly a big day for America. We are looking at Trump supporters, many Indians largely there, who are celebrating for Donald Trump. And I'm going to quickly bring in Rohit Sharma, our correspondent, who's currently joining us live with, if Rohit, if you could hear me, are you right near the White House? Give us your location. Tell us a little more about the pulse on the ground with Trump nearing victory.
I could not hear you, Nabila, for some reason. But I think, hello?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Nabila, I couldn't hear you, but look, it is a comeback for the ages. You know, Donald Trump, remember, he's been impeached twice. He has 91 criminal indictments. He's been convicted for 35 of them. He had all these court cases. His first term, wasn't as smooth as people expected it to be. But for him, and he never stopped running after he lost that election in 2020. He always said he was going to come back to the White House. He ran a primary campaign, a very unconventional primary campaign, where he did not go and debate any of his primary competitors. He went to a debate with President Biden and literally obliterated President Biden in that debate. And then after that, after Kamala came into the race, she was leading in the polls. And then he kept a very disciplined message throughout his campaign. He made sure that he stayed on his message. And what was his message, Nabila? At the end of the day, what he was telling Americans was, were you better off 4 years ago? And that message of economy, that message of jobs, inflation, food prices, open border policy, immigration, all of that has resonated well. Look, there is another stat that has come out. In New York, he's gotten the highest share of vote since Reagan won. So he's made inroads to traditional Democrat voter base and demographics. And I think that speaks volumes about the fact that we're seeing. And look, Pennsylvania, it's the last nail for Harris's campaign. I've personally seen a memo come out from Harris's campaign that they still believe that there's a path for her, but it seems very unlikely. A lot of her people on her campaign were dejected. They're not responding to text messages or call. All they're saying is that we think we have a hope and we can make it happen.
I don't have to tell.
When you say that the Democrats have some last-minute hope, where do those hopes really lie? If you could give us a little sense on what are the states that they still believe could work in their favor.
That Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and maybe even Pennsylvania for them, could turn out like it did for President Biden in 2020. I think they're trying to say that, look, during the 2020 election, President Trump came out and claimed victory. But after all the votes were counted, after everything had happened, it was Joe Biden who was declared the winner in that presidential election. So they are trying to remind people that there is still a mathematical way that this can happen if all the ballots are counted. But it looks very unlikely, given the lead that he is in right now, that Kamala Harris can pull this one off. Again, anything can happen. We should wait. But again, these are not final results, Nabila. These are projections. American elections have always been called on these projections, and the projections right now seems really bad for Kamala Harris.
We're bringing for our viewers, Rohit, stay with us, but we're bringing for our viewers the images coming in from the Florida Convention Center where Trump is really due to have this big speech, a victory speech, very likely, for him. Huge crowds there that have already gathered cheering for Trump, awaiting his arrival. This is certainly historic for Donald Trump, a man who lost out the previous election to Joe Biden, the Democrats, and now has managed to come back in how. It appears that he has defied all those cases and the number of criminal cases that were leveled against him, several cases that are still ongoing. And there were bids and attempts that were made to push him out of the electoral race itself, of course, as per legal provisions itself, owing to some of the issues that he had to face, the legal cases. It was very unlikely that Donald Trump would even be the Republican candidate. But look how he's managed to turn that around, and he's very close to victory this time. So this is certainly historic. Rohit could probably break it down for us on how, Rohit, Donald Trump was in fact unlikely to be even contesting this presidential elections because of the kind of cases he had against him. But somehow the courts cleared him right in time.
Well, look, forget about, President Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris. Nikki Haley was basing her campaign off of the fact that these court cases could be career ending for Donald Trump. 3 court cases, all right before the election year, leading into the election year. They all believed that these court cases, he'll probably get sentenced, he'll end up in jail, and people will reject a candidate who is serving jail time.
We're in appreciation for Hillary Clinton for her service to our country.
So people there really hinging the election campaign itself based on that. Nikki Haley was an example that Rohit has quoted, hoping to be the Republican candidate if at all Donald Trump was pushed out of the race. That's what you mean, right? Rohit, a little more on why Donald Trump is considered or presumed to be good for India. He's seemingly been very friendly with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, calling him his close friend on every given occasion, trying to pick up Hindi words to speak so he could impress the Indian American audience there. So in every way, he's really shown that kind of warmth towards Indians, Indian community, towards India, even be it with regards to defense deals that he pulled off during his tenure with India. Give us a little more on why he's perceived to be good for our country.
He has, he always touts about the fact that he has a great relationship with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I remember during the campaign, he was asked about some of the foreign leaders. Nobody asked him particularly about Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The question was about, tell us about some of these world leaders that you admire and work with. And the first name that popped up in his head, and he said, was Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And that made headlines across the globe, when he said, he's a tough man and, he's a great friend. And he said that. And we saw the same theme play out not too long ago on the day of Diwali when he tweeted a long tweet talking about his friendship with India, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, talking about Hindu Americans, appealing to Hindu Americans to vote for him. So I think, President Trump, President Trump has always seen as somebody who appreciates friendship. He's somebody who likes loyal people around him. He's somebody who believes in investing in the right kind of relationship, be it, business or politics. And I think that is why, he probably, if he assumes the office, which we are all thinking that he will eventually, he will, in a sense, be able to do that and work with the Indian counterparts. The other important thing is, like, India-US relationship is bipartisan. There's a bipartisan support. So it really wouldn't have mattered much if, Vice President Kamala Harris would have won this election, or she, if she gets got to become the president of the United States. The only thing would have been approach. Trump, could be unpredictable at times, and, he could talk about his great friendship. But he could also, talk about, trade and being tough, especially, he's always brought up Harley Davidson and tariffs on those. So he could probably do that. With the Democratic candidate, and in this case, Vice President Kamala Harris, we would have had a very nuanced approach, measured approach, which we've seen some of the Indian officials we're prepared for both. And India has been really successful in having great relationships.
All right, you know, we're getting information of Trump winning the fourth key swing state of Wisconsin. Rohit is still patched with us. Out of the 7 battleground states, we're looking at 4 that have gone in the way of Donald Trump. Announcement coming in for Wisconsin. Why is this important? 4 states out of the 7, that's already a victory right there. Rohit.
Honestly, it looks like there's nothing. There's no mathematical path for Vice President Kamala Harris. If Wisconsin is gone, that means the blue wall has been breached. The all-important blue wall, the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, this is exactly the repeat of 2016. Even in Minnesota, she's running behind, and she picked up a vice presidential candidate from the state of Minnesota, and she's still running behind in Minnesota. So, I mean, look, when I was in India, I met some of you guys in the newsroom, and I said, some of you had asked me, and I said, it is Trump. I think people want to vote for President Donald Trump. And that is exactly what we picked up on this campaign trail. All these months we've been covering a race for the White House. President Trump had, he probably didn't have a lot of ground game, but he was connecting with the voters. Voters that we spoke to personally have expressed that he's a guy, who would probably bring jobs back. He's a guy who would bring inflation down. He's a guy who would have economy in check. And I think that message of Donald Trump, he doesn't talk, too many policy details. He doesn't get into the nitty-gritty of things. His message was very clear. I will make sure you have jobs. I'll make sure inflation is down. I'll ensure economy is great.
Rohit, if I could really take this to our viewers here, Fox News, which is a news broadcaster in the United States, has already declared Trump as the 47th United States president. This is Fox News, that's perceived to be pro-Republicans. Either way, has already declared 47th U.S. President Donald Trump. This is Fox News report that's coming in, and it very likely looks towards that direction itself, considering that here, Wisconsin, another swing state, just moments ago we hear Donald Trump has managed to win that. So out of the 7 swing states, Donald Trump winning 4, with Fox News already declaring that Donald Trump becomes the 47th president of the United States. So it's a declaration that's coming in nice and early from none other than Fox News, as expected though, but it's going by the trend. Even though the results are still tricking in, we don't have an official confirmation, but all the trends and the announcements coming in from various states showing very clearly that Trump is on a huge lead. No kind of mathematics here can reverse that at this point. Do you think, Rohit?
Look, I'll also remind our viewers, Nabila, it was Fox News in 2020 that said President Biden had won Arizona and Georgia, and nobody else was calling that out. And their news desk had come out and said, they stuck their neck out and said, President Biden is winning Georgia and Arizona, and Trump did not believe it. And it's Fox News again, and their news desk again that is saying that we have a new president in the United States. In America, we have our 47th president, who was also our 45th president, President Trump. So these decisions are not made lightly. And Nabila, there's a whole decision desk, that evaluates the votes coming in, that evaluates past votes, the exit polls, and then they make a prediction and projection in this case. So if Fox News is suggesting and projecting President Trump as the next president, I would highly think that other networks would say,
Harold, I hear you. I hope everybody can unify, but I got to tell you.
All right. Rohit, if you could give us a sense of the kind of voter turnout. What's the voter turnout when it comes to the United States? And we know that was really one of the key issues for both the Democrats and the Republicans, considering all surveys showed more or less a neck-and-neck fight. So they really hoped for a good voter turnout so they could really take mileage of those last voters. What's the voter turnout? Could you establish that number for us?
Some of the Republicans that I've spoken to said they were worried about, Republican voters not showing up and vote today. But when I was at the election center this morning and I was speaking to a lot of people, and I witnessed with my own eyes, even in the blue states, there were a lot of Republican voters. And I was just talking about New York. where he's gotten the highest vote since Reagan. So it kind of tells you that he was able to drive out those voters, and this is exactly why he's breached the blue wall again. He did it in 2016. He's done it again in 2024. We do not have the numbers with us right now to break it down for you. But whatever exit polls that he had told that this Biden had won, he had record numbers of Republican voters, not only voting early, but also with mail-in ballots and turning up to vote. So he's definitely driven up his voters, turbocharged them, and probably know soon what that numbers look like.
From what we see here, in simple terms, I could really say that Kamala Harris had the most number of pop stars, celebrities backing her, especially on the issue of abortion rights. It appears that Kamala Harris got overwhelming support. And at one point, I personally believed with this kind of star support that Kamala Harris holds, it's very likely that she will win. What do you think has turned around here?
Nabila, all these celebs live in the state of California. They do have following across the U.S., but Americans honestly do not, they don't worship them like gods. I know there are certain, countries where people and celebrities and they will take it very seriously. People follow in line, but not in America. And look, this election wasn't fought about, any of those things. It was about when things go down on jobs and economy, inflation, the price of gasoline in this country, the price of eggs in this country. I think that is what Americans have voted for. So it really wouldn't have mattered. I mean, if anything, it would have isolated those middle-class voters spoken to, said they were worried about Republican voters not showing up and vote.
With regards to defense deals that he pulled off during his tenure with India, give us a little more on why he's perceived to be good for our country.
He has, he always touts about the fact that he has a great relationship with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I remember during the campaign, he was asked about some of the foreign leaders. Nobody asked him particularly about Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The question was about, tell us about some of these world leaders that you admire and work with. And the first name that popped up in his head, and he said, was Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And that made headlines across the globe, when he said, he's a tough man and, he's a great friend. And he said that. And we saw the same theme play out not too long ago on the day of Diwali when he tweeted a long tweet talking about his friendship with India, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, talking about Hindu Americans, appealing to Hindu Americans to vote for him. So I think, President Trump has always seen as somebody who appreciates friendship. He's somebody who likes loyal people around him. He's somebody who believes in investing in the right kind of relationship, be it, business or politics. And I think that is why, he probably, if he assumes the office, which we are all thinking that he will eventually, he will, in a sense, be able to do that and work with the Indian counterparts. The other important thing is, like, India-US relationship is bipartisan. It has a bipartisan support. So it really wouldn't have mattered much if, Vice President Kamala Harris would have won this election, or she, if she gets got to become the president of the United States. The only thing would have been approach. Trump, could be unpredictable at times, and he could talk about his great friendship, but he could also, talk about, trade and being tough, especially, he's always brought up Harley-Davidson and tariffs on those. So he could probably do that. With the Democratic candidate, and in this case, Vice President Kamala Harris, we would have had a very nuanced approach, measured approach, which we've seen. Some of the Indian officials were prepared for both, and India has been really successful in having great relationships.
All right, we're getting information of Trump winning the 4th key swing state of Wisconsin. Rohit is still patched with us. Out of the 7 battleground states, we're looking at 4 that have gone in the way of Donald Trump. Announcement coming in for Wisconsin. Why is this important? 4 states out of the 7, that's already a victory right there. Rohit.
Honestly, it looks like there's no mathematical path for Vice President Kamala Harris. If Wisconsin is gone, that means the blue wall has been breached. The all-important blue wall, the states of his
at 214 and Donald Trump at 248, it's very unlikely that Kamala Harris will catch up. Now, just a few moments to go before Donald Trump's victory will be formally announced. There's a huge gathering and a victory celebration that's been set up in Florida. And those are the images we're showing for you on the left-hand sides of the screen, showing how there could be a huge gathering. There is already a huge gathering that's assembled there. Now, Donald Trump is likely to speak anytime now from that venue. This is a big moment, certainly, for Donald Trump. In fact, several surveys all through the elections, in the run-up to the election, showed how this was a neck-and-neck fight. But I'm going to reiterate, doesn't seem like a neck-and-neck fight. It looks very clear that Donald Trump is leading and leading big. Kamala Harris, an hour ago, her team announced that she was not going to be speaking at the Harvard University venue, where it was meant to be a place where she would celebrate with her people there, with her supporters, followers, but she's decided to call off that meeting and will not engage with anyone today. So that itself shows that the Democrats at this point almost conceded. We're seeing that Donald Trump, in the 7 out of the 7 key states, 4 of them has already won. Republicans have managed to win the 4 key states. The 3 that are left will also be very crucial. But from the looks of it here, Donald Trump has managed to take this away. Let me bring in Shiv Arur, also joining us from the newsroom to give us a little more on the United States election results. Shiv, neck-and-neck fight was always told, but doesn't seem like it here. Donald Trump is at a big lead. Out of the 7 key states, he's managed to win 4. It's just about time that results are announced in favor of Donald Trump.
You know, it's been about 3.5 to 4 hours since there was no clear path for a fight back by Kamala Harris, Nabila. So it's become very clear now. For the Fox News Network has been the first to call this election in favor of Trump. The Pennsylvania win, gives him a very clear path to the presidency. The other networks are expected to follow now. In fact, messages of congratulations, from some of Trump's biggest detractors, including people like Mark Cuban and others, have just issued statements congratulating Donald Trump as the 47th president of the United States. So now we get a chance to kind of zoom out from that US map, because this is completely clear. All those opinion polls talking about a neck-and-neck fight at that point of time, appeared to miss just where this election was going. And I think this has been a year of, incorrect exit polls and opinion polls and things like that, not really capturing the mood on the ground. The granular details of what finally led to Kamala Harris's pretty decisive defeat, will be something that will be we'll be able to go into in the next couple of days, including in the US media. But I think what President Trump, and I'm calling him President Trump now because he will soon be declared President-elect Trump, is only the second US president since Grover Cleveland, many years ago, to actually have a non-consecutive second term as US president. So this is a very, very big deal. Even last night in Florida, Nabila, when President Trump and Melania came on stage and made that speech, a lot of people had said his body language was off. He looks like he's going to lose. He looks like he's going to concede. He looks like he doesn't have this in the bag. And then what it's like. 3 words that he said. He said it's not even going to be close. Not even close is what Trump said last night, and that has turned out to be true. So all preparations for a neck-and-neck fight, all possible preparations for the long haul, extended counting, possible violence at the Capitol Hill, all of that goes out the window now. This is a decisive decision that American voters have made.
I'd like to ask you, Shiv, your analysis on what do you think has gone in Donald Trump's favor? Because for the man who lost out the previous 2019 presidential polls, he's really managed to come back, and how? There were several allegations, court cases that he faced through the last 5 years. The Democrats in every way painted him as a man who was corrupt, who was bad for the economy, who was bad for the country. And now he manages to come back with a huge lead and very likely to be announced as the next United States president. What do you think has changed? He's focused, we know, on the economy by and large, on anti-immigration. Were those planks resonating to such an extent with the people, as we see?
If you think about the RNC convention.
Well, it clearly resonated very strongly with the people. The elections can be split into two halves, Nabila. One half is the personality-led campaigns, and we had very strong personalities in this election as well. And the other is, like you mentioned, the issues. Trump very strong on against immigration, very strong on the economy. He had a almost unusual focus on job creation, and America works this time, which appears to have worked, especially at a time when the United States is facing quite a degree of economic uncertainty. So that obviously has struck a chord with voters. I think the Democrats overestimated the strength and the vitality of issues like abortion laws and Medicare and things like that. I think jobs, economy, livelihood is what Trump focused on, and that is finally what worked for him. If you come to personalities, I think the receding figure of Joe Biden, the fact that he was still in charge, the fact that it seemed like he had completely lost control of what he was saying or doing, the fact that Kamala Harris was brought in at a very late stage. She didn't really fill those shoes very well, didn't really sound a credible note in terms of where things actually stand. All of these clearly played a factor. But I'd also like to say, Nabila, that this is the third time, if you also count the Democratic nomination in 2016, where you've seen America rather vote for a man than a woman. Everyone had doubted this election to be a possible shattering of the glass ceiling. Kamala Harris has been vice president. She's been a state's attorney for 25 years. She's got all those angles working for her.
Yeah.
But once again, America has decided to rather give a second chance to a previous president, a controversial figure who has cases against him, a person who has been convicted in some cases like Donald Trump, rather than a Kamala Harris. What does it say about a country that considers itself, to be in a position where it can lecture the rest of the world? I leave it to our viewers, I leave it to the American public, but this is what the message really is. America would rather vote for Trump than a woman like Kamala Harris.
There are also many other parameters, Shiv. Would you agree? Kamala Harris also a woman of color. Yes, a woman itself, but also a woman of color. So those angles that if we closely look at, could that be the reason that United States has decided to vote in favor of Trump? But yet, as much as we say whatever the reasons could be, we're still looking at a close fight. No matter what, the gap is not so huge, but yet huge enough at this point to the last minute for us calling Donald Trump's victory. Let me also bring in Rohit Sharma for more on that. Rohit, Shiv made a very pertinent point here. Could this be that America has decided not to vote for a woman? I mean, I know I'm simplifying it, but give us a little bit of the background here on America voting for Donald Trump yet again, a man who they dumped the previous election, now decides to bring him back. The man who contests against Kamala Harris, a woman of color, they've decided to opt for Donald Trump.
In my mind, automatically went to the unity speech that Biden...
Well, look, is America, is misogyny deep-rooted in America? Yes. This is the second time Americans have rejected a female candidate for president. So, absolutely, I think that is one of the points. I don't, when I was at the DNC in Chicago, I'd spoken to a few people over there, and white women had told me at that point in time that they don't see a female leading United States, especially given the fact that they've never had one, and they don't think Kamala Harris was the more deserving candidate to be. And I think, Kamala Harris and her campaign were relying on women voters to come out and vote in these swing states. Their campaign strategy was to galvanize women supporters and females and college girls too, who would have been the first-time voters, to come out and vote in some of these towns. And that hasn't happened. What has happened is America has bought back Donald Trump. They've bought his message of making sure that he will be uniting the country, that he's going to take America out of wars, and he's going to bring jobs and keep inflation in check. I think that's the message that has resonated well. And look, there are a lot of reasons, a lot of post-mortem. I was just texting one Dem operative, and they said she had a very short lane, meaning she only had 100 days to run a presidential campaign, which is never enough. A lot of people did not know about her. Look, we talk about politics all day, all the time, but a lot of Americans do not do that. They only start picking up and trying to understand who is running and whatnot after Labor Day, which is September of an election year. So her campaign was literally launched in August. People did not know much about her. She's a vice president candidate. It's a pretty nominal role. She hasn't done a lot, did not have a lot of achievements that she can tout for. And then, unfortunately enough, Joe Biden had tasked her with fixing the border and immigration, which she could not. She's the vice president. She couldn't do anything with that. And the message of Donald Trump about immigration, about open borders resonated well with the voters, and he named her immigration
Rohit,
czar.
we have information that Donald Trump now readies for his victory speech. It's already the Republicans there calling out this elections in favor of Republicans. You have Donald Trump gearing up for his victory speech, and that's the first image we have there. The Donald Trump who's looking rather composed, poised, running through that speech sheet. In the last minute before he takes to the stage. That's the image right here on India Today that we bring for you. Donald Trump to be speaking at a venue in Florida in front of a huge gathering. The Republicans there really betting big on Donald Trump seem to have come to fruition here. There was a lot of talk around the Republicans initially not finding any other candidate, no other candidate that they thought was fit. Donald Trump, despite the cases, despite some of the convictions in some criminal cases, still managed to be the Republicans' pick. And guess what? He's right here inching close to victory. It's just about time for that formal announcement. But here's the big image of Donald Trump there reading off his speech sheet. That paper, which likely has his victory speech etched on it. This is a certainly historic image, a historic moment for Donald Trump as he's managed to win 4 swing states. It's just a few moments to go before the formal declaration to come in. Very unlikely that Kamala Harris would be able to pick up at this point. And looking at the numbers here in the latest, what we have out of the 270 mark, Donald Trump is showing at 266. And Kamala Harris at 188. This is certainly a shocker for the Democrats. And all the surveys that all along call this a neck-and-neck election at this point seem debunked. For the numbers that are stacked here, it clearly shows that Donald Trump has gained with a huge lead, a massive lead there, 266 versus 188. It's not even a comparison. A clear victory there for Donald Trump. And we're calling this a victory for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States. He's getting up for that victory speech. And this is that image which will be etched in history. Here is that image where he's holding that speech sheet where his victory speech has been penned down. He's glancing at it the last moment before he takes to the stage. Rohit Sharma, our correspondent, who is right there in America, bringing us those angles from the election-bound country. Rohit, that image here is so telling. Donald Trump looking rather composed and reading off that sheet where his victory speech has been penned down. And I'm also going to ask you, this is the same Donald Trump who said that if the elections do not come in his favor, he won't accept it. What did he mean?
Well, that's Donald Trump for you. And get ready for more of that stuff, Nabila. We'll hear something one day and we'll hear something completely different the other day. So that has been the way he works, he functions. This morning, he was asked about the same thing. Was he ready with the concession speech? Was he ready with a victory speech? And he said, look, I'm not a Democrat. I don't prepare in advance. We'll see what it will become. And I remember 2016 vividly, when he walked out on that stage. It looked like a very impromptu speech. I don't think anybody had prepared anything. But this time I'm surprised he's at least glancing through the written comments. But sobering, even for him, at 78 years old, he will be probably 82 when he leaves office. He is very disciplined for, the first time we saw him in 2015, very brash. He would just give anybody and everybody a nickname, throw all these tantrums. But if this campaign, if you look at his campaign during this time around, he was very disciplined. He was on the message. He did not say too many rash things, although he could have. And there are certain things he said on the campaign which were not liked by a lot of people. But at the same time, he did not move away from.
All right, we have a declaration there, more or less. U.S. House Speaker says Trump is our new president. The U.S. House Speaker declaring Trump is our new president. This is a word coming in from the United States House Speaker, where he says clearly that Trump is our new president. And of course, it's a confirmation that almost is established with the numbers that we see itself on our screens. Very telling. Donald Trump at 266 out of 270, with Kamala Harris at 188. A huge leap, a huge lead that Donald Trump has won by. And here you have the U.S. House Speaker who is declaring that Donald Trump is America's new president. Rohit, over to you.